Hi everybody, welcome in. Hi Silver Buster, hi Gunkin, hi Midflight. Oh my god, Midflight, thank you for the 40 stream streak. Thank you so much. But hi everybody, hi. I'm Koi Koi, and I'm an anglerfish. And today I'm gonna be a turbo nerd. Midflight, you are logging them real fish hours. You really are. Silverbuster, holy shit, the sequel. Holy shit, thank you for the 60 stream streak. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it so much. You guys are rad. Thank you. I before we get to the point of today's stream, I have a couple of things I want to tell you about that happened today. And most of them make me really happy, and one of them made me cackle. I'll let you figure out which is which. So, this was the last day I had to deal with my boss in that capacity. It's over! She's now somebody I just have to email a couple times a week and have very perfunctory conversation with. It's over. And 3 minutes. I shit you not. 172 seconds before I clocked out for my weekend, this bitch comes up to my desk. Hey, Earwax! Oh yeah, we'll get to why I'm wearing the glasses and the hat soon. There's a reason why this is all here. I'll explain, but first I have to tell you about my day, you see. 3 minutes before my weekend started, she comes over to my desk and tells me about this major change she's made to one of our practices earlier in the week that she completely forgot to tell me about. Again, less than 3 minutes before my fucking weekend started. Do you know what time my brain clocked out? 42 minutes before that. I tell you fucking what, man. Like, Jesus H. Christ. What the shit was she thinking? I tell you what, she wasn't. Hey, Oxen, hi. And then, oh no, I think she has it out for me, but I think she has it out for me in a very weird way. I think she forgets I'm there when I do my job well. Like, completely forgets I exist. I fall into the background, which, like, isn't unusual for me. I've spent most of my life being a solid secondary character in most people's environments. Like, I am the two friend. Whether that's too weird, too loud, too smart, too short, too fat, too skinny, too whatever. I am always the two friend. So I'm very solidly like the backstage sort of friend for a lot of people, and I often get forgotten or misremembered to the point where I had an entire week after getting a major facial piercing done of everybody I knew telling me, no, you've always had that piercing. 2 on the Rolodex, never number 1. Yeah. Take being ignored, talking is hard and you're used to it. Valid. Too aquatic, too fishy. You guys get it? Yeah. So like, the only times she ever has to notice me is when I have a question. And then I bully her through direct communication, requiring clarification to this, like, the most West Coast vague Bay Area Valley Girl hybrid sort of non-communication I've been dealing with for the past many years with this woman. And she's gone now. Allegedly, we're getting a replacement for her. Allegedly. Beyond the grand boss that I've mentioned. But he gave me the too cool title. Thank you, Midfly. You are too kind. Cool. But no, like, it's a whole thing. Like, I put together a whole going away party, promotion party for her. Like, I did all the legwork on this. all the way down to like actually cooking. Hey, Fate Crate, hey, good to see you. Oh, no, I got snappy with her a couple times, especially when it came to my health and her non-responses or very major concerns, and instead of anything, she gave me coaching on my tone. So that's where we were at. Oh, thank you for the 10 stream streak. Thank you. But like I put together this whole going away party for her. I had to contact people outside of our industry. Thank you, Oxen, for the 85 stream streak. Holy shit, guys, you are incredible. Thank you. And I threw this together in 4 days, mind you, because that's the amount of time I had before I actually got answers back from people as to who could actually access her schedule, like online, and actually getting these ADHD fucks I work with, I say as an ADHD fuck, to answer me and get back to me with a response of any sort, and not just do 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 do, because that's been many. But yeah, I threw this whole going away promotion party for her, coordinated a gift basket with the grand boss, had to go in my outside of work time and like pick it up and all that shit, got everybody in the office to participate in some form or fashion, and she hugged everybody but me at the party. Like, she is artfully passive-aggressive, and honestly, I think she may be too dumb to realize that's what she's doing. To be very real, I think she's not smart enough or self-aware enough to realize that's what she's doing. But she's not my problem now. And that's what matters. I may have to deal with a new her. I may have to become the new her. I've practically been the new her for several months. Don't some states literally require you to take actual... Oh no, I'm talking about my weekend, Silverbuster. I went on my weekend to collect this gift basket because timing did not work out right. I'm not even getting into all the details here, but I put major effort in. Oxen, you like... Hold on. Okay, so you like totally want this like Valley Girl whatever out of me for reasons? Weird. Like, gag me with a spoon? For real? Bitchin'. I don't know. More Valley Girl phrases. But the other thing that happened today. Earwax, what are you been? Hey Dragon, hi! I can't say that 4-letter word. Okay. So I don't see who's here unless they're in chat. The way I have my setup and my limited knowledge of Twitch, I don't see who's here unless you say something in chat. So say something and I will say hello. And yes, and further things. So yes, hi Dragon, hi. But the other thing that happened today, I didn't see anything. I'm so sorry. The first thing I saw from you was no greeting for you. I don't know. I don't know what happened, Dragon. I completely don't have a chat message from you previous to that. I just looked through my whole chat history. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Dragon. Oh, mid-flight, you're totally right. This is hopefully a better environment, whatever way it plays out. But the other thing that happened today was, I remembered that this new retro store was opening near me, and so I went to stop in. I think the jank got you today, Dragon. Gomena, sorry. Twitch has a sidebar that shows who's in chat? Really? Oh, well that's really cool. I'm gonna have to find that. Today, Fish learns. But yeah, I stopped at this new retro shop that opened near me. I saw a flyer for it like a couple weeks ago, and then I remembered that it was opening today because today as a date just kind of lives in my head for various reasons. Um, and I thought they were just going to be retro games, but no. They've got albums, they've got laser discs, they've got cassettes, they've got VHSs, CDs, fucking video games and consoles and a couple arcade machines and all sorts of stuff. Well, thank you, Gungan, Mighty Fish. Right side, another tab around where chat is on the right browser. Interesting. There, I see users in chat, but that's about it. But yeah, Dragon, it was Koari Heaven. It was in fact Koari Heaven. I was very, very excited about that, and I stopped in and just kind of booped around and chatted with them a bit and had like, hey, like I was trying to not. They don't have any wax cylinders. They're apparently not vintage, only retro. So you know, we gotta draw the line somewhere, I guess. But we were just chatting, and I was kind of like, hey, I actually used to manage a retro shop on the other side of the country, and out of the house, and signal might be bad, but here, so you're like, thank you for being here mid-flight. I appreciate it. Fish Heaven has 403 types of hot sauce. That number might be too low, Oxen. There's not enough sweet hot sauces available in that number. I tell you right now. At least 600. At least 600 types of hot sauce. Pretty please and thank you. Yes. But I stopped in and I chatted with them, and I was explaining to them that I have kind of too big of a collection. And like, one of the reasons I stopped in is I'm still on the hunt for a PS2. I can't manage to find one in my area to save my life. And I'm really hoping to find one before my first anniversary, because like I was really super hoping that for October we could just pull out my PS2 spooky games and have fun with some of them, like maybe actually play Siren, maybe play Haunting Grounds, maybe play Kuon, maybe play something else, who knows. But like, I don't want to hoard this shit. I want people to get the chance to play it. So I want to, sell it back into the community. I want it to be played and shared and experienced and enjoyed. And I want it to be something that more people can get, especially Kuon, because there's only 20,000 copies in the entire NTSC market. And that game has almost a religious following, and I want to play it for you guys. I really want to play it for you guys. But then I want to put it back on the market so other people get to play it. Because I don't want to die holding this. That serves nobody any good, especially with a life cycle of PS2 lasers. Like, come the fuck on. I want this to be a thing. So that should stop. It won't lead to accessibility. They'll sell it to a collector. Not these guys. Not these guys. So, Dragon, 2 models of the PS3 have PS2 compatibility. Here's where it's weird. This is like the most layman's terms explanation of this. This is not technical, so keep that in mind. There's very wide differential between what I'm saying and the actual technicality, but that's not what today's stream is going to deep dive into. So we'll hold that for later. But the most layman's terms umbrella overview is PS1 is CD, PS2 is DVD, and PS3 is Blu-ray. Most PS3s, most Blu-ray players can play CDs, but it takes a special laser attached to the Blu-ray laser to read DVDs. So there are 2 models of the PS3 that were first released models that are able to play PS2 games, and that is the 20 gig and the 60 gig version. And if you notice, those numbers are relatively small. Yes. So most PS3s are PS1 backwards compatible. So if nothing else, we'll pull out some of my PS1 games, like we'll pull out Galarians and what have you. But most PS3s are not backwards compatible, which is very difficult because PS3 was where they really started like you have to download updates for this game. So a lot of the games will take up to like 15 gigs just for updates and memory issues. It's a whole thing. It's a whole wild thing. Normal, fat, and slim all function different. PS3 was a fuck. PS3 was a fuck. They referenced this in a Columbo meme. Are you serious? Do they really? Oh, that just made my day in ways you can't understand. I'm doing an amazing job streaming and sharing these games. Oh, thank you, Gungan. That means a whole lot. Thank you so much. Say so. Can believe in their desire to broaden the accessibility, but then the next person buys it, control is lost over keeping it. I mean, yeah, but again, I'm one little fish. There's only so much I can do. There's only so much goodwill and active justice and fairness one single person can put into the world, no matter how much you want to. But I can do my part. I can make my ripples. I can put a little goodwill out there. And you know, I've considered once or twice taking one of the more rare games I have and like auctioning them off. You know, like doing a raffle. Hi, Kindred Karma. Hi, Karma. Welcome in. Good to see you. Hi. We're just chatting before the actual PowerPoint, but good to see you. You bask in fish ripples. Well, thank you, Eerie Wax. Those backwards compatible ones are more... Yeah, they're super more expensive. They're like almost twice the price in some cases. It's nuts. But yeah, like there's only so much I can do, and I can do my part. But I went in there and they had so much cool stuff, and they had like a whole bunch of Star Wars stuff, and they were just Star Wars nerds, and we just chatted for a bit, and like dude and I bonded over Dreamcast. It was great. But I was looking around. Yeah, Karma from Anime Nights. Karma's here. Karma shows up sometimes. It's great to see them when they do. But they had something that I had to pick up, and I may post a photo of it in the Discord, because aside from one single face crack and some minor scuff, this is in fucking pristine condition. It is the original soundtrack complete in box for Metropolis, the 2001 anime Metropolis. I actually squeaked in the store when I saw it. I was so excited. Market price online for Kuon would be insanely high, yes? We talking $200 or like Little Samson for NES expensive? So Silverbuster, I bought Kuon as part of a bundle that I paid about $400 or $500 for, and it was Kuon complete in box. It was Siren. It was Haunting Grounds. It was something else I'm blanking on, and I shouldn't be. And that was about 8 years ago or so. And that was a decent deal at the time, because at that point, Kuon Complete in Box was going for like $250. But here's the thing. The price has skyrocketed since I bought it. Most recent copies of Kuon in the American market, disc only, certified as working, sells for almost $800. If you have it complete in box, you're looking at almost twice that value. We're not talking Earthbound prices, we're not talking Little Samson, we're not talking anything like that, but it has definitely escalated in price. But just the disc alone, most recent sales, just looking at most recent confirmed sales of the past 3 weeks, average price for the disc is somewhere between $750 and $800 just for the disc. There were only 20,000 copies made for the NTSC market, which is North America and parts of South America. It's a whole fucking thing. And this game is legendary because, number one, it's early FromSoft. You tangented. Oh, well, good job, Oxen. You're joining the club. You're joining the collective. So this game, Kuon, is an early FromSoft title. But it's also, I think, the only time FromSoft and Capcom collaborated, which is pretty cool in and of itself. Japan actually got a decent release. No, NTSCJ is Japan. You're very close, and that's a very common misunderstanding. But Japan actually has its own designation that is NTSCJ, that are Japan exclusive, and there are plenty of NTSCJ and even PAL copies of Kuon. Oh, I remembered what the other one was. The other one is Rule of Rose. I have a CIB copy of Rule of Rose that would be fun to like maybe do in the Discord. I don't know if I can actually stream that one without Twitch coming after me. Like, that's the question, right? Because that game, like, at least 2 people in chat live in a country that banned that game outright. I say that because I know we have multiple countries here, and I know of at least 2 countries that have banned that game outright. Was studying an account of 1500s British rebellion, found out the author of the rebellion documentation wrote the first English translation of Oedipus and wrote it using ballad meter. Oh, Oxen, send me a link to that. That's really cool. Sell the disc, keep the rest, dash the value so people can't use it to keep with money. I'm gonna find a way to make that one happen as ethically as I can for Kuon. I'll be real. But like some of the others that aren't quite as high profile, you know, those we can bring to the shop. I might bring them my CIB copy of Japanese Chrono Trigger, right? Because that one's not necessarily playable on stream for most people because it's in Japanese and that game's very text heavy. That was kind of a novelty I ended up with, which is super cool. Karma, you're exactly right. Backwards compatible means the console can play games meant for older gens. So like PS2 is backwards compatible to PS1. PS3 is backwards compatible to PS1, and 2 specific models are also backwards compatible to PS2. But you are exactly on the money there. Yeah, Rule of Rose is a great game. Oxen, I'm fine with Middle English. Send it to me. I'm super fascinated. Send it to me. Especially after the research for this PowerPoint, I am fine with Middle English. But no, Rule of Rose is a great game about trauma. It is a horrific game if you don't have media literacy. Like that your 3DS is backwards compatible with your DS, but sad it doesn't work for Game Boy games. That's an entire vibe. I'm still sad they pulled that with like the DSi, DS, 3DS era. Just like, we're like, no more backwards compatible. And you're like, but my GBA games, man. I have all this stuff. Most of the DMs you send are in middling English. I love that. The 10 Tragedies of Seneca written in ballad in Middle English. Oxen, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have so much fun with that. Now we are coming up on an ad break. I can't make that disappear. After the ad break, we will get to PowerPoint. But I had to geek out at you guys because I have in my possession now. You can hear me moving it, just like petting it. In my possession is now the original soundtrack for Metropolis. Guys, we haven't watched Metropolis yet, have we? In the Fish Cord. Have we watched that? Have we done that one yet? I know we did Memories, and I'm really glad we did Memories. Thank you, Silverbuster. Thank you for sending that in the Discord. You don't got much meteor and literacy. Thank you, Guggen. Okay. We will definitely watch Metropolis. We might even do that next Monday if I can find a good copy. I have a DVD copy, but playing that is tricky. While we go into ads, I'm going to explain to you why we're going to watch Metropolis. So, in the silent film era, Fritz Lang made this early cyberpunk, arguably early cyberpunk film called Metropolis. It's a black and white silent film about a techno future and robo people. And you've probably seen the robot from Metropolis, from the Fritz Lang Metropolis, without realizing it. Let me see if I can find a good photo of that real quick. These very dark tragedies in Latin, you know what they need to be written in comedic rhyme. Absolutely. Absolutely they do. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of the Metropolis robot for you guys. Because it's one of those, you see it and you're like, oh, yeah, no, I've seen that face referenced in various media. Come on, why do you suck? Why do you suck and why do my eyes suck? Alright, this is probably gonna be our best bet. Ba-doo, 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 ba-doo. Fish find the right damn thingy do, ba-doo. Fish find the right thingy, please do, ba-doo. I found the thing. Okay, I'm gonna move me so you can see this robot because reasons. But this robot, this look familiar? This silvery sort of thing. Let's see if I can find maybe a slightly better. Here we go. You see 3POs. But yeah, you see the Metropolis, you see this is the original robot. This thing has been memed all to hell. It's a whole thing. It's one of the bases for C-3PO. This movie came out in 1927. I didn't mean to make myself disappear. Gomena, sorry. So this movie came out in 1927. There's an anime that was made in 2001. What's super fascinating is the creator of the anime. 15% of the movie is still missing because it got like a theatrical cut and the director's cut got yoinked all to hell. It's a whole lore thing. It's pretty wild, honestly. We could talk about that as its own friggin' entity, I swear. But yeah, so 2001 Metropolis is an anime. Ultimately, by the people behind like Ghost in the Shell, or rather Memories, and like Astro Boy and shit. And yeah, the Osamu Tezuka Metropolis, that's exactly what we're talking about. I believe, right? Yeah? Yeah. And this anime manages to encapsulate all the motifs and leitmotifs of the original, despite the creator only having seen synopses and stills from the original and working from that to make an anime. Only instead of a like more seductive adult female character, we have her as the tabula rasa innocent child. And the soundtrack is cyberpunk jazz. And now I own a complete in-case CD copy of the soundtrack, and it's sitting right here next to me, and I'm petting it. It's one of my favorites. I saw it for the first time at Otakon when they had the anime film room, and I saw it on the big screen, and nothing can compare to seeing the end of that. The Ray Charles, the I can't stop loving you, as the collapse happens. And just I've got goosebumps like just thinking about that. We're gonna watch that in the fish cord soon. I'm gonna find a way to make that happen. It's gotta happen. Oh, you love my brain, thank you. If your brain was put in a jar in a retro store, you'd bid $1,000,000 on it, even if it was labeled Abby something or other. Thank you, Gunkin, thank you. With a version of St. James Infirmary sung by the actual Ray Charles. Yes, 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 yes. So many yes. You would feed on fish's brain in a jar and release it into the ocean. But I wouldn't have a mucousy membrane to protect me from the saline solution. What is the greater ocean? It would shrivel up and desiccate and die. You gotta keep it in the jar. It's a whole thing. Or wrap me in like a decent silica at least, you know? Koi joins the think tank from that New Vegas TLC. Well, speaking of koi fish tank and think tank, we do have a special addition to tonight's stream. That is the command !add tangent. I have put Oxen in charge of that for now. When Oxen leaves, we will have to designate a secondary. But considering this month's PowerPoint, there's going to be a little bit of a DMZ between what is relevant information and what is tangent. Tangerine, Ted Nugent, good job. Fish Brain gonna need a reboot with all the cool retro stuff. Almost. Feed your ocean lots of you feed your ocean brain lots of car batteries. Thank you, Gungan. Thank you. Study it like Einstein. I'm sure there's something weird with my brain going on. Yes, Oxen is responsible for the test drive of Koi's Cranial Caviar Quarter. Let me know what you think of that. 10 gentlemen. Is it terrible that I immediately think gentlemen? Fucking Penguin Z-Zero's parody metal group. But I also listen to Clowncore, so like that's your fish for you. But the PowerPoint. We need to PowerPoint. I put on my glasses because I'm in nerd mode. I put on my hat because I fucking earned it with this PowerPoint. You may also need to inform me about ad breaks if I miss them. I'm going to try not to, but there's only so much I can do. Do we like scoop out your brain with mother of pearl spoons, or do we have blends? I don't know, man. That's a question. Encore trumps Charlie. Yes, it does, but it doesn't mean Charlie isn't in rotation. All right, let's get to it. Friend of yours is wrestling at Juggalo Championship Wrestling soon. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love that. So, let's get to it. Tonight's PowerPoint is idioms and their meanings. Thank you for pointing, guys. Technically I would be a juggalette, not a juggalo. But I am not one. I am just extremely juggalo adjacent in my lesser years. Can I restart? Good job. No, tonight's PowerPoint is a non-exhaustive list because I don't have the grant funding to be able to set aside an entire 5 years to go through the English language. If you want to make that happen, you can contact me at www. But this was actually by request in Discord. I believe this was Praxiquat, but I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. Praxiquat just jumped to my brain, but I don't remember. Fuck! I had remembered up until today, and now I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure it was Prax. I'm so sorry. Oh, God. Just a juggling. Can't even get grant funding, so I don't feel bad. Thank you, Oxen. You behave mostly lurk, but you need to do food. Food's important. Now you're reminded of that guy who jumps on microwaves and starts moaning in pain. This one is for the juggler. I don't know this guy, Silver Buster. but I do know about March of the Juggalos, which we can talk about out of stream. It is very easy to think of Prax. Prax is wonderful. So I had to find a way to organize these, and doing it thematically was too much of a clusterfuck. So we here at Kawari Co. decided to go alphabetically. So we're starting with beating around the bush. The meaning of beating around the bush is to avoid addressing the topic directly. When you know somebody broke up over their vacation, but you don't want to ask them how the breakup went, you just want to be like, so, how was your vacation? So I will start this slide with a general preface for all of these. I have done significant research. I have not done exhaustive research. So there may be something that you know that I didn't come across because I did not fall that deep into esoterica because I didn't have the time. This PowerPoint is 63 slides long. Thought it came from the President Bush boxing flash games. Valley Girl Boss slipped in subliminally to the slides. But no, beating around the bush actually dates back all the way to 15th century hunting. And we're talking hunting when you would have hunting dogs, right? If you've ever seen horse and hound type shit, that's the type of hunting we're talking here. You would go on group hunts. It wouldn't be just like Jeremiah and his dogs. It would be a group. Sometimes you'd have up to like 30 or 50 people going on a hunt. And you may be hunting foxes, you may be hunting boar, you may be hunting birds. I don't know. It's up to you. It depends on the region, it depends on the flora, the fauna, etc. But there was a classification of people involved in the hunt. Yeah, they do still happen. What's wild is you still have a lot of people doing horse and hound, quote unquote, where sometimes the prey is somebody, like an actual person, running around, leaving a trail for the hounds to follow and the people to follow on their horses. That's still something you see in America, even. Foxhounds were super useful in their role, indeed. But you would have beaters as part of your hunting party that would go to the bush and literally beat around the edges of the bush in a very specific, precise way to scare the prey out of the bush back to the chase. Sure, Gungan, be stupid for a second, but you're not stupid. Ask what you want to ask. It's totally okay. Okay, that's not asking a thing. That's fine. Yeah, be stupid. That's fine. Dragon, I see you, I hear you, I feel you. So you couldn't just come up to a bush and like clobber it like you were 1970s Hulk, right? You had to have a level of like understanding of animal psychology functionally to like figure out how to scare it out in the right direction. So yeah, it was a whole thing. I actually found a picture for you guys, a painting, I believe. Yeah, this was a painting. Clever book. The earliest known written record of the phrase beating around the bush was in a 1572 poem by George Gascoigne. You can bite on a wood block to hold back. It's okay, Gungan. I'll tell if you get too much. Beyond the pale. Most bottom guy has an animal face. He does. Welcome to medieval, early Renaissance paintings. So he never heard the phrase beyond the pale. It means something that is unacceptable, unforgivable, or intolerable. Her behavior at the wedding was beyond the pale. I don't care if she is the groom's mother. You don't wear a bridal gown unless you are the bride. So, I see you, earwax. Palus is Latin for wooden stake. The earliest known record of pale as a term for a wooden stake is the 1382 Wycliffite Bible. 1382. By the 1450s, pale came to mean more district or territory within like hard boundaries, whether that was in the terms of a fortress or a walled city or something like that. Agatha always ruining her daughter's weddings. This was the fourth one this year. Yeah, right? The bridal gown hugs your curves and makes your lats look so big. Gungan, you may be able to get away with it. Maybe. Maybe. We can discuss things. One of, if you want like a historical point for this one, 1558, Queen Mary the First, aka Bloody Mary, actually lost control of the Pale of Calais in France, which was a piece of land that was under heavy contention between England and France for centuries, frankly. The most famous, excuse me, the most famous Pale was the 1470 Dublin Pale. It was known as the Pale and was a fortress line that encompassed all of the greater Dublin region. She was the one who invented the cocktail. Frankly, not Normanly. Silverbuster, I appreciate you so much. But no, here's a map of Ireland and its various regions, circa 1450. And you can actually see the delineation of the Dublin Pale right here. It was a walled off pale. If you crossed the line, you went beyond the pale. You ever heard bite the bullet? When you have to actually perform an unpleasant task, bite the bullet and actually deep clean your apartment, pay your taxes, talk to that one guy in the friend group you've had contention with for a while. Like the magic trick. I don't know the magic trick, Silverbuster. I actually don't know this one. I didn't come across this. I'm intrigued to learn. It killed many people? Oh my god. Too bad, better bite the bullet hard, son. I didn't have no teeth, so I stole his gun. But no, what's fascinating about this one gets its own specific slide. Because best anyone can figure is this dates back to battlefield surgery, when your surgeons would have patients literally bite into something, often a bullet, because it would give just enough for a hard bite without actually like hitting compressive force. Because pre-anesthesia, your soldiers were conscious and mostly cogent minus the shock for amputations. So they'd need something to keep the screaming and the flinching from being too much. Was this the one where people hit a bullet in their mouth and a blank shot at them, then spit out the non-fired bullet? No, I don't think so, Gungan. But what would block was also another option in this. And yes, Dragon, often it would be lead bullets because lead had just enough give. Second version of this, but it's a little more esoteric. Hey, Tub of Insects, welcome in. I found you an actual bullet what had been bitten. Oh, the magic trick. Okay. Yes, yes. Lead is a highly malleable metal. And this is one of the options. Sometimes you didn't have a leather strap. If you want to get into like exactly how bad warfare can be, there are two things you can look at for like man-on-man combat levels of warfare historically. In modern times, there are two things you can look at. One is trench warfare in World War I, and one is the general state of post-1863 Civil War battles. It is honestly a nightmare. They were doing Houdini tricks while he was getting your darn sawed on at Bull Run, you'd be pissed. So in the Sepoy Rebellion in India, they made a first British Army cartridges that needed to be opened by biting, and they were greased with cow fat, which caused the Hindu soldiers to rebel, an unpleasant event. Well, what's interesting, Oxen, is there's also theories that this dates back to when you actually had to load your own musket, when you had to, bite off the top of the pouch in which your gunpowder and your ball came, and you had to load it, piece by piece and tamp it down and whatever. You would have to bite the bullet pouch, but there's no documented history on that. And that's where it gets interesting. World War I wasn't called that until after World War II. Gungan, I actually did. Bite the dust. I had to. To die, to pass on, to join the choir invisible. Earliest known date of use in this one is the 1500s. But phrases like lick the dust date back to the Iliad and the Old Testament. Uh Yeah, Oxen, we're not getting into that right now. We're not getting into World War etymology. That could be its own PowerPoint. That's a 40-minute conversation by itself. But yeah, the phrase lick the dust dates back as far as hundreds, if not thousands BC. Um, and once again, we're in the combat zone. We're talking about, you'd run somebody through and you'd pull your sword out and they'd fall, usually face first because of the force, and they'd have their mouth open because shock and pain kick in very quickly. And usually the tongue could hang out due to different viscera happenings, and we're just going to leave it there, and you'd fall face first into the dust, into the dirt. It was a whole thing. It was a time. And then Freddie Mercury made it super popular again. So blood is thicker than water. The meaning of these 5 words is that family ties are more important and long-lasting than other relationships. This slide led me down a research rabbit hole. I'm not calling your blood fat. Don't worry, Earwax. I'm calling it condensed. It is very full of platelets. It is very healthy. Good on you. I appreciate your iron intake. Yes. So Heinrich der Gleichazars, and I know my pronunciation sucked there, wrote Reinhard Fuchs, which is Reinhard the Fox. It is a early folklore tale. By early, I mean 12th century, almost 1,000 years old. Boy is a vampire fish, she wants your blood. Call it a stupid tense. Yeah, so this dates back to the 1100s. And it is a folklore moral parable sort. Similar to Aesop, but extremely German. And you love getting complimented on your iron when donating? Same, Gungan, although I can't donate anymore. You're right, Silverbuster, you are. But the line from Reinhard Fuchs is, I also hear it said that kin blood is not spoiled by water. What's interesting is this is directly referencing getting baptized and choosing a religion outside of your paterfamilial religion does not cut ties with your heritage. 1412, it was written in the epic poem Troy Book, for naturally blood will a of kine draw unto blood where he may it find. Very much a chivalry era ideology. Yes, yes. Very much so. And then it popped back up prolifically in 17 and 1800s Scottish literature. I can't tell you the amount of poems and short stories and essays and what have you where this phrase either pops up directly or as a leitmotif. It was seen more noble for a Muslim to be an enemy than a Muslim than to as a Muslim than to convert. Yes. And then your fish has a sense of humor. Pancakes. More important than family. Tell your friends. Disclaimer, please do not tell your friends. This is a joke. Break a leg. This one is super fascinating. You've heard it. You've seen any movie about theater kids, you've heard break a leg, right? It means good luck, but you can't say good luck in theater because that's bad luck. You can never say good luck in theater, just like you can never say the name of Shakespeare's Macbeth in theater. It is the Scottish play. Superstition abounds in theater, nerd. Now, this one's interesting because the most we know as far as earliest documented usage is the 1920s. Friend was in a play, so you told her this once. Legit. Now, we've seen it in some sources arguing usage as far as 1921, but we saw it in active usage in 1925 for sure. Hi, Midflight, welcome back. Yeah, we're discussing idioms. You've missed about 2 or 3. We're pretty early in. We're going alphabetically. I'm glad you got better signal. So what's interesting is this phrase itself is commonly theorized to be related to an old German hunting expression from, like, we're talking 1500s that translates roughly to break your neck and your leg. But what's interesting about that is it's from the part of Germany that was heavily influenced by Yiddish and Jewish culture. And the Yiddish phrase itself that it arguably could originate from is an almost homophonic phrase, what means success and blessings. It is absolutely wild because Yiddish is an interesting language because it pulls from like 5 or 6 different languages at once and then becomes its own thing. It's not quite a pidgin. It's not quite a language. It's this ephemeral state. I defer to language because that's the closest for me that it comes to, but it's really fascinating as a studyable aspect, right? But this phrase, success and blessings, in Yiddish sounds almost identical to a German phrase that translates to break your neck and your leg. So it could arguably be a wish you bad luck so you have good luck, as much as it could be a misunderstanding. In Star Fox, they call it the Scottish planet so you have good luck against the forever train. Yes! You heard blood is thicker than water. Oh, excellent, Midflight. Good. Back when they would take the dogs out to hunt thespians. A language is a dialect with an army and a navy. I love that. Who does that come from, Silverbuster? I've never heard that before. I love that. So yeah, this could trace back to like 1500s, but nobody's really sure because it could have just been a misunderstanding of epic proportions. Bigger question with this one is, in my opinion, why break a leg? Is it, like I said before, you wish bad luck so good luck comes? Is it something else? Is it that German phrase? Is it a reference to Greek theater? Because in ancient Greek theater, so it goes, you didn't clap, but you stomped your feet. Would you stomp your feet so hard to break your leg against the amphitheater? Question mark? Think? Question mark? I don't know. Do you know? Nobody knows for sure. This one's still up for debate. I don't remember, but it was specifically in regards to saying back in World War era that Yiddish is only a dialect, therefore its speakers aren't really members of a proper name. Gotcha. Interesting. somewhat suspicious of etymology being homophones, often someone who doesn't actually know etymology is just hypothesizing. That's true, Dragon, but we're talking pre to immediately after the birth of the printing press. So if somebody, I mean, the whole thing about kangaroo, right? Kangaroo being called kangaroo because of Aboriginal to English misunderstanding. Um, there's always the potential for human idiocy and awkwardness to kick in, right? Where you hear something and it sounds just enough like what it could be in your language that you go with that. Um, don't touch don't touch my mustache, right? If you've seen Toy Story 2, at the end of the conversation the collector has with the Japanese collector, he says, don't touch my mustache. That's a joke dating back almost a century to misunderstanding the term doitashimashite, which is basically if somebody says thank you, say, oh no, it was my pleasure. You say doitashimashite. Don't touch my mustache. It's not the first time that this would happen. Thank you, Oxen. But yeah, so never underestimate the power of human stupidity and a game of telephone, especially when writing can't be involved. Buck. Somebody hands you a $5 bill, they say, here's $5. So 1700s American frontier. We're not just talking USA, we're talking North American continent. So America and Canada, US and Canada. You had a massive fur trade population going on. Um, Telephone, what should you tell it? I don't know, make it feel happy, Dragon. Make it feel good about itself. But deer, especially white-tailed deer, were so plentiful over the North American continent that you could actually at one point trade a full buck skin as if it were its own form of currency. It was a parallel form of currency to the American dollar for, oh, decades, literally decades, if not a full century. Thank you, Dragon. I'm sure the phone feels very good now. But yeah, buckskin actually was its own form of independent currency in frontier culture for a long time. One of the earliest known references to it is in 1748, if not the earliest known reference, where a frontier tradesman logs getting payment in the form of bucks. These guys. Funny because unrelatedly, a 10 is sometimes called a sawbuck because the X Roman numeral looked like the prototypical form of the sawhorse. Yes, that's also interesting and strangely unrelated, which I think is very cool. We've moved through 2 letters now. We're on to C. Can you eat the venison? I don't know, so long as it doesn't have CWD, but you got to get that tested and then the meat gets, waiting and tough. It's a tricky situation to be in. Tricksy hobbits as them deers are. Anyway, the canary in the coal mine. An early indicator of danger. I'm sure you've heard this one before, right? Whether somebody's called somebody else the canary in the coal mine, or you've seen it in a TV show or something. This one actually is a literal idiom. Coal miners used to bring canaries down into the mines with them because canaries are generally pretty happy birds. So long as they feel stable, like so long as they are happy in their cage, they'll just keep tweeting and chirping and singing and just having a whole time. The dragon, that counts as etymology. That's what's interesting. And because one of the dangers of coal mine is carbon monoxide poisoning, you could easily lose your life just walking down a coal tunnel, a mine tunnel, not realizing that you are oversaturating yourself in this colorless, odorless gas that's just right there. You know, countless miners died in the UK and the US from oxygen deprivation, carbon monoxide poisoning, gaseous exposure. Pick your poison, literally. It was an entire crisis. Um, in 1911, the UK mandated the Coal Mines Act, um, which actually led coal miners to bring canaries, like as a regulation, had coal miners bring canaries down with them in like almost little glass lanterns, um, because they would be an early warning sign. They are small, and like Dragon said, they're small and sensitive. So they, unfortunately, the earliest canaries would die of carbon monoxide or gaseous poisoning or hypoxia before it affected the miners. Um, the practice had been, pardon the overuse, in practice since like the late 1800s, but it was fully regulated in the 1910s. Um, and oxen is strangely prescient in their comment today, because they were talking about the first CPR machine for resuscitating the canaries. This is also a device that was made for the canaries. If you look at the front, at that sort of circular front, that opens and closes. That allows air to pass through, right? So the canary can breathe, the canary can sing, tweet, chirp, do canary things, have a canary time. When it goes quiet, doesn't mean it's immediately dead. It just means it doesn't have enough oxygen to produce sound. So the moment the canary goes quiet, this door gets shut and this gets twisted to allow this oxygen tank to help the canary. The miners took care of their bird friends. And I find that to be adorable. I just love the idea of all of these big, burly, 14 to 20 hours in the dark coal mines every day, being like, no, no, my little 4-ounce friend, I will protect you. You will keep the sound going, and this will be beautiful for both of us. You have one in your museum archives, Oxen? That's awesome. The body only recognizes the presence of carbon dioxide. It doesn't recognize the absence of oxygen. Yeah, and carbon monoxide is even more insidious than dioxide, which is what's fascinating. Blue collar laborers just love animals for some reason. The reason is they are cute. Yes. Yes. It took a century for Amazon to build this, but for humans. I know, but we're not going to get into my problems with Amazon. Also, this is extremely nice to learn because you thought they only brought the canaries to die. It didn't take long for them to build devices to protect their friends, which is very wholesome. Next one is Cat Got Your Tongue. Ah, thank you, fish. I had to. If you've never heard this one, if you've never had somebody turn to you and go, "What? Cat got your tongue?" It means, why do you suddenly have nothing to say? So as far as the origins of this one, this slide took me about 2 days. Um, because some etymologists argue that the idiom could date back to ancient Egypt, where we have multiple cat gods, and some of them are mischievous, but some of them are protective. And it could be argued, it has been argued, that the phrase dates back to one of these cat gods protecting you from saying anything. Gungan, that is Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the 90s version, not the Archie Comics version. But to hold or keep one's tongue dates all the way back to 900 B or 900 AD at least, or CE. Medieval witch lore is also potentially responsible here, which is fascinating because anything could be blamed on a medieval witch. Too many clouds, it's a witch. Your crops didn't grow right because you're a dumbass and didn't water or fertilize or rotate, and you oversaturated the soil with potatoes, and now you've got blight or some shit, and it's 1472. It's a witch. Deeply in love with Melissa Joan Hart and her aunts and didn't catch that. I had a lot of Sabrina the Teenage Witch stuff as a kid, as a wee baby fish. I had many Sabrina things. I had a Salem plushie and everything. But that whole medieval witch thing, black cats were often seen as medieval lore, or as medieval witch familiars in lore. And so they could, carry a curse to your field or your child or your what's a nuts. Most etymologists, potatoes in 1472. No, Oxen, I'm not being exact. I'm being hyperbolic for the sake of rhetoric. Don't expect me to be exacting on my ranting. You can't expect that of fish. I only have 3 brain cells. Yeah, we're only on C. We'll see how we go. Can't make a decision. It's a witch. But no, among all the arguments, most voices get behind it being the cat o' nine tails, which was a common disciplinary tool on sailing ships. It is a whip with 9 whips, like 9 actual whip tails attached. And this was a disciplinary device that was often used on sailors for anything from attempting mutiny to back talking too much. So if the cat of 9 tails got your tongue, you were in too much pain to say shit. One of the reasons many scholars and etymologists believe it dates back to the cat o' nine tails is that the first written record we have is 1881. Has the cat got your tongue, as the children say, in a publication of Bayou's Monthly, which is, great. Super great. We love that here at Coarico. Caught red-handed. Cat o' nine tails often had lead shot or hooks in the ends too. Yeah, or glass fragments. Or sometimes really thick splinters that came off of a rail. They'd weave whatever they could into that to make the punishment quote unquote stick. Need wife who will treat you like a Shanghai sailor, you self-flagellate spiritually. Oh, Gungan, no. Our next one is caught red-handed. This is when you're caught in act doing the bad thing. The origin of this is 1400 Scotland. As far as we know. In flagrante. Yes, Gungan, exactly. Caught flagrantly in the act. Exactly. So, James the First, in 1432, the Scottish Acts of Parliament of James the First features the record that the offender be taken red hand, may he be pursued and put to the knowledge of an assis, or an assis, before the baron of landslord of the land or ground, whether the offender be his tenant unto whom the wrong is done or not. Arguments go for it relating to being caught with the blood of your victim on your hand, and that's specifically what this is referencing. Yes, this was pre-printing press. This was pre-Shakespeare. This was pre-general literacy, so words were just kind of free fall. You spelled it how you thought it was going to be spelt. That's just how it went. So forgive me if I'm reading anything pre 1600s and I have to correct myself on pronunciation. Sometimes the brain cells don't all kick in at once. I hope you forgive me. In the Scottish play, you have to read tons of this as a job sometimes. Yeah, no, I read Beowulf in the original for high school. Calling somebody chicken or yellow, a coward. If you've seen Back to the Future, this is a featured trope. Chicken also dates back to the 1400s regarding farmyard hens. Kind of love B movies from before 2000. You had a few typos around. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. No word processor, so it was. Yes, I agree. I agree. Remind me to tell you at some point about the time Bruce Campbell made fun of me for my taste in his movies. This is from Coldplay. I will leave that to Oxen's discretion whether that was a tangent or not. Um, so chicken dates back to just 1400s farmyards hens being sort of skittish and a little bit cowardly and curious in the wrong ways, and then going, "Oh fuck, I did the bad." Um, Yellow or yellow belly. A lot of people think this relates to Civil War. It does not. It it goes back as far as the 1780s, as far as we know. Tangent is 60 seconds or more. Okay, gotcha. Yellow is shortened. It is. You are correct, Dragon. The first known writing of this is yellow bellies. This is an appellation given to persons born in the fens, who, it is jocularly said, have yellow bellies like their eels. Finally decided what to make. It will be rice with the remaining asparagus. I want your asparagus. Give me your asparagus, please. Gotta do a countdown like the last 10 seconds of a boxing knockout. Curiosity killed the cat. Asparagus can make your pee smell funny, but that's because it has a lot of ammonia in it. So, the meaning of this phrase, as it is that being too nosy may get you in trouble. It originated in the late 1500s as care will kill the cat, meaning over care, meaning over worrying, over fretting, overdoing it will kill the cat, which I find personally to be rather interesting. So confused the first time, like, do you need to clean your bathroom? Oh god. Satisfaction brought it back mid-play. I love that one, yes. Love two British direct heirs to the throne choked on eel bones within a century of each other. Nichols, man. Nichols. I want Nichols for that. It's actually pronounced Appalachian. Why, you chicken bellied, no good cow tootin' flanker. Good job, Erie Wax. But yeah, the first known written example of Carol killed the cat was by Ben Jonson in Every Man Has His Humor. And the direct quote is, "Helter skelter, hang sorrow, Carol kill a cat, up tails all, and a louse for the hangman." Also, Helter Skelter, Beatles song. It was also used the year after by one of Ben Jonson's contemporaries, this dude named William Shakespeare, in one of his plays, Much Ado About Nothing. The earliest known print we have of Curiosity killed the cat was an Irish newspaper. They say Curiosity killed the cat once. But Satisfaction brought it back mid-flight was added in the early 1900s, printed in various newspapers as early as 1905, which is interesting that how these develop over time, because for a couple centuries it lived as Carol killed the cat, and then it lived for a century-ish as maybe a century-ish if we're being generous as Curiosity killed the cat. And then we have the addition of the coda less than a century, less than half a century before we see the first written log of it as is. You know Helter Skelter from Death Grips? Aw. U2's cover? U2's cover of what? Interestingly, Chinese also has a version of Yellow Bellied, but it meant something different. Interesting, Crade. Deadline! You ever heard of a deadline? You ever worked in an office? You have a deadline? The time or date by which you must finish something. Deadline for a project. This goes back to the Civil War. Trying to find what, but it's hard to search. That's fair. That's fair. We can always come back to that. Andersonville Military Prison had a line that everyone in the prison knew about. Whether you were an officer or a prisoner, you knew the exact parameters of this line. To this day, we do not know if that was a literal line. But what we do know from multiple accounts is that should any prisoner have crossed that line, they would not be coming back. After the Civil War, it didn't show up in in current lexicon until after all of the Civil War trials. It sat quietly in the English lexicon for about 15 years and then popped back up like a groundhog. But then it shows up in journalism around the 1920s. Journalism culture brought it back into the mainstream, which I think is pretty wild. Confederate guards would often throw food just over the edge of the line and shoot. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're entirely right, Oxen. It was absolute logical insanity of the time, and that's the most concise way I can describe it. Your middle management was inspired by Anderson. Oh God, Gungan, I'm so sorry. So many dead there. Guy who ran it was executed for war crimes. Didn't know what did that. Yeah, no, it's wild, man. You ever heard the phrase a dime a dozen? Something's just, not worth noting. It's very common. It's just there. Go to an orchard, you might find apples a dime a dozen for how many there are. It was first recorded in the Minnesota newspaper known as the Princeton Union in 1895 as a comparison for how cheap something was. What's interesting is the dime was first minted in 1796, almost a century before. But considering how inflation has happened, right? You look at especially pre-gold rush American currency, and you'll see things like a dress might cost a dime. A dozen eggs might cost a penny, right? Like, you might not even buy eggs in the dozen depending on what market you're going to, because they might not just be able to make change for what you can afford. A dime a dozen was an advertisement for a lot of companies for whatever they could sell their quantities of in bulk. Because you could get a dozen bags of flour for a dime. Buy all my dresses from the dime store. No, I buy them from the 5 and dime. It's got to be only the 5 and dime. Also, for a little bit of fun, I thought I'd grab you guys an actual like first dime so you could see it. I thought this was pretty cool. The Dog Days of Summer, not just the Florence and the Machine song. But this is kind of an older one, but I've still heard it in use. It refers to like that 6-week period from July through August where it's just the hottest, grossest, muggiest, humidest, yuckiest, bleh, right? Weather's just the worst. This time is actually astronomically based. The Sirius star, the dog star, rises in the pre-dawn at this time of year. So this time of year was actually made, like termed, to reference the dog star, the Sirius star. Um, Hellenistic astrology connected Sirius with heat, lethargy, drought, thunderstorms happening out of nowhere, and mad dogs. What's also interesting is that this time happens to coincide with a good, like, peak breeding cycle for a lot of farm animals, including dogs and cats. So they would also get extra aggressive and ornery at this time of year. Dog days actually comes from the Latin puppy days, which is actually borrowed from ancient Greek because this dates back to the dog star. We are talking several millennia here that this phrase has been used. Dogging it. You can't be serious. Canis Major or something. Yeah. There you go. There's Canis Major. Dog days of summer because, oh, woof, yes. Yes, but there it is. There's the Canis Major if you ever want to find it in the sky. You can look for it right now if you're in the northern hemisphere. It'll happen right before the sunrise. Dollars to donuts. I bet you dollars to donuts you've heard this one. You're so certain that you would bet an entire dollar against a practically worthless donut. Hey, gelatinous snake, welcome in. We really are in the puppy days of summer. We are. Oh, we have an ad break coming in soon. Oh, goodness. Ad break in about 5 minutes. You've never heard this one, Silverbuster? You late enough to see it then. Legit mid-flight. So this is really just a transformation of a well-known 1800s gambling phrase. That was dollars to insert useless item. Dollars to buttons, dollars to cobwebs. Or I'd bet a pound to a penny on that one, right? Like, I'm so certain this will happen, I'd give an unreasonable overvalued item to bet against it. But dollars to donuts specifically is American as fuck. Its earliest recorded usage was in a Nevada newspaper in 1876. I got you a graph. I got this just for you. Isn't it interesting? I think it's really fascinating how, like, we get from 1900, right, up to a peak here, like 1919, and then again about 1942, 1944, and then just like since 2005, 2010 on, it has just been excessively used until just about 2018. Dollars to donuts? That's just, I like that. More of an American one, never really heard it yourself. That's fair, Dragon. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. This one I think is really fascinating. So the meaning of this one, if you haven't heard it, is to not be too critical of a gift, right? Right? The origin of this goes back over 1600 years. And here's all you need to know. As horses age, their gums degrade. Horse jaws and horse teeth are much like the rest of the horse themselves, built like a glass fucking cannon. So as the gums degrade, these oversized teeth and this oversized snout tend to, like, push out because there's nothing holding them in place. And as they push out, they grind against each other. And as they grind against each other, they weaken and they push out further and further and further. You can literally use a horse's teeth to gauge its age. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Hey, somebody gave you a horse. Never mind that dude is clearly 25 years old because look at that absolute lack of gum on this boy. He's still a horse, man. Don't look at Uma Musume and its wit stat. God, if that took over, I would giggle myself to death. I think Priam should have maybe looked his gift horse in the mouth. Fair. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that this is a literalism idiom. Eavesdropping. to listen in on a conversation secretly. So this one goes back to about the 1600s, considered a reformation, not a reformation, but a reformation of the terms eavesdropper. The Middle English word eavesdrop, which is what that is, eavesdrop. Oh boy, a horse, and now you have to feed and stable. You're welcome, Snake. Have a good horse. Enjoy your horse. Happy horse. But the eavesdrop was the place around the house where the rainwater would fall off. Um, think of it kind of like the way we have gutters set up nowadays. So you would be standing outside of the rain under the house eavesdrop, listening in at the nearby window or door to hear a conversation. Have a graphic. Have a help. Hopefully this helps. You see, the sneaky hobbitses is going to hide under the eavesdrop to listen in at the window that is along this wall, so he can hear your conversation. There ain't no eaves at Bag End. No, but he's not in Bag End. Clearly, he's eavesdropping in the stranger's home. I believe it dates around the time as well that the Roman emperor's daughter was to be married to a Hun chief, and the dowry was paid in horses that were of low quality. Yes, I think that's exactly right, Oxen. Elephant in the room. An obvious situation or issue that's not being directly addressed. Have you ever heard somebody say, well, they're not addressing the elephant in the room? We need to talk about Sheila's divorce because that was wild, but nobody's bringing it up. We got to address the elephant in the room. House must be in Brie. Clearly it's in Brie. So, Charleston Gazette is the first known printing of the phrase, the elephant in the room. In this excerpt here, Chicago, that's an old Indian word meaning to get that elephant out of your room. End quote. Ads. Thank you, Dragon. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to wait for ads because that's how we do here. Generally speaking. You love the elephant in the room gifts? Legit. I've seen a few of those and they make me giggle. I will be honest with you. I was not expecting this one to go the way that it did. I had no idea on this one. It surprised me. I was like going into this one, I genuinely had no clue where it came from. I thought maybe it dated back to British Imperial India, for all I knew. What Indian do they mean? Chicago's North American, taken from a presumably native word. There were elephants here. Earwax, they do mean Chicago, Indiana. Indiana, yes. But the Charleston Gazette, I believe, is Charleston, North Carolina. And you gotta remember the vague racism of the 50s. This was the same decade that gave us that terrible Peter Pan song in Disney. The very catchy one that is now stuck in my head. There was a whole lot of just general usage of Native American as trope in the 50s. It was a common thing. Um a very common thing. Yeah, Gungan, the Native American one. Do 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 do. That one. Point is more, is the Charleston Gazette making up that this was an Indian? Yes, they're using it being an Indian saying as the butt of a joke that is vaguely racist. Um, the the verbal mechanism, the literary mechanism of X, that's an old Indian word meaning phrase, was a common colloquialism in American English, especially around the 1950s. 50s through the 70s, if I'm being honest, although it gradually faded over time. There's a reason Marlon Brando didn't accept that award. You had a book as a kid called A Pickle and Other Funny Idioms that taught you a lot of these. Excellent, Snake. That's awesome. You're aware of the racism. You just don't know how much people use newspapers of olden times as reliable sources. Well, we're using them as first known printing. First known published printing. Your uncle, till the day he died, would cross his arms and go how to greet people. He was from a Honduran border town. Interesting, Gungan. However, regarding the elephant in the room, there is a 1814 fable written by Ivan Krylov called The Inquisitive Man, about a man who goes to a museum and notices all of these little things, like the slight tilt on the bow of the back of a woman's dress, or the dust motes in the air, but completely misses the actual elephant in the literal room. Like how people claim okay was from Native American term. We don't actually know, but it must have been funny ironic spelling. Actually, Silverbuster, as far as I know, okay dates back to Knickerbocker culture. Where it started as like okay dokie. Where you had like Knickerbocker slang was very heavily built on like homophonic rhyme and like loose rhyme and things like that, and almost a patter song method of speech. It was for all intents and purposes. Oh God, why did I just blank on it? Oh fuck. Uh, fuck. The thing, the dialect that is used in Austin Powers 3 between Austin Powers and his father, that Mike Myers specifically pulled from his father, that is British slang, that has its own term that I'm not remembering, but it's where you get terms like sixes and sevens, like somebody being all Cockney. Thank you, Silverbuster. Yes, Cockney. Yes, Cockney. Thank you. Yes, Knickerbocker slang was almost American Cockney for all intents and purposes. Thank you. Yes, I was sitting here dying, going, it starts with a C. What is it? I can't remember. I'm dying. But yes, it's the wrong kind of Indian for elephant. Same mistake as Columbus. Yes. Also, yes. Australian BIL knows Cockney rhyming slang. Oh, that's fascinating, Snake. That's rad. Blow a raspberry tart, blow a fart is still around in American English. Yeah. I knew somebody who called it blowing a zerbert, and I still don't know where that came from. Face the music is our next one. Oh, wait. If oxen is needed, we need somebody else to take over the mantle of the exclamation point add tangent command. If I actually tangent. Who's willing to take up that responsibility? We need somebody. I can't do it. I have too many windows open as it is. Is anybody willing to face this task ever so bravely? If fish tangents too long about a topic, to just add something to the tangent counter. Maybe Zerbert as raspberry sherbet. That's an idea, Silverbuster. That's definitely an idea. It's got some merit to it. You're on mobile and getting ready for bed. Very fair. Very interested to learn this one because you only learned about it in high school. Okay, I'll see what I can do. You guys just call me out if I do a tangent then, okay? Is that fair? Can we roll with that? You tell me if I need to add tangent. You only learned about this one in high school, so okay. So to face the music means to face the consequences of your actions. This is another one where it's in dispute. We have a few of those. The earliest we know of it being published in print is in 1834 in the New Hampshire Statesman and State Journal. The direct quote is, "Will the editor of the Courier explain this black affair? We want no equivocation. Face the music this time." But if you note, it's in quotes in the quote. which is interesting. Um, because that means he was using a colloquialism at the time. Uh, it exploded in the lexicon around the 1850s. You like the note face mid-flight? Thank you. I'm glad. I was very pleased when I found that. So there's a lot of debate as to the actual origins of this one. It could be something to do with the military. If you were being drummed out of formation, formed into formation, if it was on the battlefield used to calm the horses, or if you were being drummed out in disgrace. Was it maybe due to theater at the time? Because remember, we're talking the one of the golden ages for theater and opera. So you have your orchestra pit right in front of the stage. Your actors need to face the orchestra pit in order to face the crowd. They need to turn to face the music. Nobody has a really strong answer for that one, which I think is cool. From scratch. Now, for years, I heard that scratch was a term for a bread base, where it was like the flour and a lot of your dry goods for bread together was your scratch. That's what I'd heard for years and years and years and years and years. Your friend's evil mom, triangle-haired bitch, called you a slur for not knowing what an orchestra pit was. Well, she's a bitch. We don't listen to her. We don't accept her judgment here. When you first heard this phrase in high school, you thought it was literally facing a huge speaker. Dude, that's valid, though. The only thing with it being the choir dragon is the choir would usually be behind the actors or up in the wings, if not in specific boxes, because of the way the sound would resonate if you were actually doing a choir. It would either be behind the main actors on stage, in the wings or in the catwalks above or off stage, or it would be in the crowd facing boxes adjacent to the stage. Acoustics get weird. But the phrase from scratch, meaning from the beginning, not using any pre-made materials, doing it all, from step one, it dates back to the 1700s. Oh, the choir infernal. Oh, gotcha. So this one dates back to the 1700s, when you'd have a race and you'd have to literally scratch or dig the start line into the ground. And you would also often see that with the end line, as you can see here. This is an actual historic Nebraskan photo. I thought it was really cool. I thought you guys would appreciate this. Make an Alan Wake 2 joke here, but kind of spoilers. Fair mid-flight. I appreciate you saving us from spoilers. Thank you. Give him the pickle. I heard this from a boss for many years, and I never understood it. But he was like, no, give him the pickle. Go ahead, give him the pickle. I thought it was an innuendo. Turns out I was wrong. This means to go the extra mile to make a customer happy, even if it might cost the business a few extra cents. This actually dates specifically to Bob Farrell of Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor, which was a major chain for a long time. A customer complained about not getting enough pickles on their burger in 1972. So he, in his owner managerial capacity, said, just give him the extra pickle. It's fine. Make the customer happy. Nah, man, I don't want no damn pickle. He even wrote a fucking book about it. Look at this. Now, for those of you who may not know, Farrell's was kind of a competitor to Friendly's, the like ice cream sort of ice cream fried food family restaurant place. Um, but like Friendly's, it went out of popularity. Oh, differing opinions. You're glad to hear this is good phrase. We do. I love pickle too mid-flight. I love pickle very much. I always have emergency pickles in my fridge. You would absolutely use it as an innuendo. Dragon, somehow I'm not surprised. Hands down. Hands down. You've definitely heard this one. Your friendlies got quarantined and shut down. Now it looks like an apocalypse cracked in. Silverbuster, that's hilarious and horrifying all at once. That vaguely reminds me of the time I lived across from a CVS pharmacy that was very much not taken care of, and the lights were going out, so the P went out before anything, so it said CVS pharmacy, and same vibe, same energy. Um, but hands down means without effort or doubt. Like, you know, you've got this. This is perfect. This is in the bag. This dates back to 19th century horse racing. If a jockey had a wide or large enough lead, he wouldn't have to hold on to the reins. He could relax and let his hands hang down, loosen his grip a little bit, not have to keep so tight and tense. Because if you don't know, horse jockeys are like muscularly locked from tip to toe through your average horse race. But if you've got a wide enough lead, you've got no question. You don't have to be so locked up anymore, man. Hands down, your hands now hurt from slapping the table. Oh no, not aggressive hands down mid-flight. Oh no. Hans. I present to you Hans. Speaking of horses, hold your horses. Be patient, please. So the first written recording of this is an 1844 New Orleans newspaper. It was written as a command to drivers and riders to keep their horses from darting off into traffic because, you know, pre-cars, streets were kind of equally used by pedestrians, people riding their horses, people in carriages. You just kind of had this free-for-all thoroughfare. Um, so you would want your stagecoach drivers or your cart drivers and your horse riders to be able to hold their horses to keep them from running off after a dog or after a startle or for horse reasons. To hand something down is to give it to court. Thank you, Dragon. Yes, more nonsense mid-flight. Yes. So hold your horses was a command for equestrian discipline. But that began as hold your hosses. The actual hold your horses began appearing in the early 1900s. One of the most notable early appearances in the Chatelaine magazine in 1939. A lot of phrases come from horse racing, like dope or dope sheet, derived from the Dutch word for dip, the sauce kind. It became slang for doping the horses, and the dope sheet was the sheet of which horses had. Yeah, you're right, Silverbuster. You're entirely right on that. Now, we're done holding our horses. If it were a snake, it would have bit you. Hold your horses, but there's too many umas I care about. How could I fit them all in my hands? Get the chibi versions mid-flight. That's how we do it. And put them in a little bag. It's fine. They'll be fine. They'll love it. So this phrase, this idiom, means if it were, it's right in front of you. How could you have missed it? This is actually an old Appalachian phrase, specifically Southern Appalachia. And it relates to similar phrases from German and Scottish and Irish. Thank you, Silverbuster. I once again made myself giggle. But you see similar phrases pop up throughout history. This one's kind of one of those eternal idioms that just you change out the specific noun to match, you know, the environment. Jack of all trades and a master of none. Someone who's capable of many different skills, many different types of work. You're sort of handyman types. Um, Jack was a 1500s term for a John Doe, the way we'd use that today. First time we saw it published was in Geoffrey Minshall's 1618 Essays and Characters of a Prison. If that were an angler, it would have bit you. Nom. Master of None was added in the 1700s. A 1721 edition of the Boston Newsletter features the line, Jack of all trades, as it would seem, good at none, is the earliest recorded use of that second half of the couplet. But if you were a jack of all trades, you were literally an everyman. You could do it all. You were just some guy who did it all. You were the guy everybody knew. When they said they knew a guy, they knew you. You are so handy. To kick the bucket, to pass on, to cease to be, join the choir invisible. Jack also did come to mean knave and rogue silverbuster in different time periods. That's true. Um, it's one of those words that gets that's inherently over malleable, kind of like if you look at English, right? If you look at English of the past 50 years, uh you have just look at the word bad. Sometimes bad means good, sometimes bad means bad, sometimes bad means horny. What decade are you in? What area are you in? What context is it being used in? It's a whole flustercluck, man. This one though, to kick the bucket. Um Again, under debate. And a lot of these ones that are under debate are pretty old as far as we can tell. What year is it? Yes. Because it was such a common name, got used for a lot of things. Yes. Now you're doing bad in every way. Thanks, Gunkin. But to kick the bucket, the one of the most commonly accepted theories is 1500s animal slaughter. Uh, the pulley system that they would use to rig up the animals, uh, because of what was understood as sanitation reasons, or in certain cases, kosher reasons, you would have to present the animal for harvest in a very specific manner. Um, and one of the big pulleys they had was known in French as the bouquet, and that could easily become bucket in English, as the way a lot of words did from French to English. The first recorded appearance we have of it is 1785 in the Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue. This is an oversized example of the type of pulley system we're talking about. Um, I say oversized because it would probably be closer to this hook sitting around here, right? Maybe around 10 feet in the air, not 40. But this is a very similar build to what we're talking about. Heads up, some of these idioms are kind of horrific. Not all of them, though. Some of them are cute. Like, let your hair down. If somebody's ever told you to let your hair down, they're telling you to relax. Get in the mood, join the moment, enjoy yourself, right? From Guilty Gear. Maybe the other way around, dragon. But no. Um, for literally centuries, if not millennia, married women, older women were expected to keep their hair in very controlled, tight styles. Uh, the only time you were really allowed to have your hair outside of these styles would be very specific festive occasions, maybe your wedding in certain cultures, certain time periods, or when you were like your bedroom or at home with your family and the knocker was off the door. You could literally let your hair down. You could take out all of the pins, all of the tight curls, all of the everything, take off the wimple if you wore that. Like you could just be a lady that had hair on her head and just vibe with it. What the first time that broke was about the 1920s with the flapper bob cut. But the metaphor has been seen as early as the 1600s in written plays. And here are some examples for you of different hairstyles over the centuries that were expected of women from about 1700 on. Let your hair down, start shedding. Oh no, Gungan. Made it home mid-flight. Oh good, hooray. Let the cat out of the bag. Oh no, kitty, stay in that bag. So if somebody told you you let the cat out of the bag, you let a secret loose, you told somebody something you shouldn't have told, you accidentally did the oopsie with your mouth, right? Um, this one, while we don't have hard definitive proof, it is commonly accepted that it dates back to medieval marketplaces. You would be sold your livestock, you know, you'd buy your livestock young, you'd buy chicks, you'd buy piglets. You'd be sold them in little bags. The vendor, the farmer, the seller would go and collect however many you said you wanted, and he'd put them in the bag and he'd hand you the bag. A bag was sometimes known as a poke. Um, you wouldn't know it wasn't a piglet until you opened the bag and found out that that thing that weighed roughly the same as a piglet was actually a cat. Gonna have cat bacon for. Oh no, Gungan! Oh no! Oh no! Not cat bacon! Oh no! Poor kitty! What am I going to let Chad out of our bag? Never! You live there. You live there. It's your fish tank. It's right next to my fish tank. It's how we hang out. This one also. Less commonly accepted, but still commonly accepted. This one also dates to the cat of nine tails by various etymological arguments. Um, because if you were going to be punished, the officer was going to let the cat o' nine tails out of the bag in which it was kept. Being in an air tank while you swim around deep in the sea sounds so cool. I agree. I agree. But the earliest known recorded date for this in like published use was in 1760, where a London magazine reviewer wrote somebody had let the cat out of the bag. Loose cannon. This one I knew, and this one I was excited to show you guys. So if you call somebody a loose cannon, right, they're an unpredictable, uncontrollable person, uh, usually a tornado of a person. They're likely to bring you some sort of damage or chaos or embarrassment if you don't have reins on them of some sort. Um, the idiom itself dates back to a Victor Hugo novel from 1874 called 93. But the idea of it comes from the ocean, because you see your warships, your battleships would have cannons. If you've ever seen an older ship, that's what all the small portholes are for the cannons. And they would have to be very heavily anchored in with all of these ropes tying it down, because the tilt of the sea, even if it was gentle, was enough to cause all of this iron and wood on these wheels to go rocking back and forth and back. And imagine if you come across a storm on the sea. That's that's not a great that's not a great time. And you can see how large these ropes are, how thick these ropes are, how sturdy these ropes are, how strong they had to be to keep these cannons in place on deck and below deck. And to give you an idea of the size of the different types of ship cannons, I got you a thing so you can appreciate what the average cannoneer looked like next to his buddy. All of that metal and wood coming right at you because you didn't tie your ropes right. Now you have a loose cannon. Wish someone talked about you like I discussed 19th century nautical ropes. Thank you, Gungan. Lost your marbles. Somebody says you've lost your marbles, you've gone a little crazy. George V. Hobart wrote a play called It's Up to You, a story of domestic bliss, in 1902, and it features the phrase, a man who is shy some of his marbles. However, he lost his marbles most beautifully and stomped on the irascible Harmon, very much a la Bull in the China Shop, was used in the July 1898 edition of the Lima News of Ohio. Your marbles? Oh no, not your marbles! Not your marbles, mid-flight. In the Navy, when pulling a rope, the count is 2, 6 heave, because men 2 and 6 on the gun's team were inactive up to that point. Yes! Yes! They had a cannon named Minion, like Despicable Me. Yes, they did, Gungan. Mad as a Hatter. You may know this one from Alice in Wonderland, the Mad Hatter. Even if you know the Disney version with the Very Merry Unbirthday, you know the Mad Hatter. Somebody's mad as a hatter, they're extremely crazy, they're wildly irrational, they're even more so a loose cannon than a loose cannon. Did you know it comes from mercury poisoning? Austin Corbett, your favorite literal Mad Hatter. Dude, legit. So, mercury was used to make felt for a long time. Thankfully, we figured out since then other ways to felt things, but mercury was integral to the felting process for a long time. And a lot of the hats you saw in the 17 and 1800s were felted hats. So your average haberdasher, Boston was at Andersonville, actually, added to the insanity. Yes, yes, indeed. Gungan, we're gonna have to nerd out at some point about this because many reasons. Many, many, many reasons. Half his own balls that shot John Wilkes Booth. Did you know John Wilkes Booth's childhood home is now a satellite site for the Peabody Institute of Music? Tudor Hall in Maryland is one of Peabody Institute of Music satellite sites for their out of downtown students, because Peabody is attached to like University of Maryland or something now. It's closer to the DC region. But yeah, up closer to the Mason-Dixon line, they have Tudor Hall is now part of Peabody. And of all people in the world, do you know who teaches, or at least used to teach at Peabody? Thomas goddamn Dolby. Dolby surround sound? Dolby. Or poetry in motion. When she's making love to me, she blinded me with science. Dolby. Thomas Dolby taught at Peabody Institute of Music. Thomas Dolby arguably had classes in the same building in which John Wilkes Booth spent his childhood. You know what? For that one, I'm doing this. That went too far off topic. But yeah, so back to hats and Mad Hatters. Mercury exposure can cause a condition known as erethism, or erethismus mercurialis. You played a house elf named Dolby the house shitter in a GURPS game once. Gungan, I once played a tech priest named Dora the Explorator in a Rogue Trader game. I feel you. So, erethism affects the entire central nervous system. It causes pain, weakness, tremors, causes depression, causes apathy, causes low self-confidence, can cause delirium, memory loss, major personality changes. Like, we're talking the same level as like somebody with a terminal brain tumor is what mercury poisoning can do to you before it kills you. This is wild, dangerous shit. And you just had entire fucking employ of people performing this day after day for work and going slowly mad. Welcome to Victorian London, I guess. Making the grade. Making the grade means to meet the expected standard. C's get degrees and all that. This phrase comes from early railroad construction. What did the mercury even do? It if I remember correctly, it helped. Okay, so felting is ultimately you breaking down the fibers to reformat them together, and mercury helped stiffen and glue the fibers. But they weren't felting the hat together as in like the pieces together. They were felting the hat together as in making the fabric to make a hat out of felt. So you would take your wool and you would felt your wool. And then once your felted wool is ready, you can shape it into a hat. You would use the mercury to transform the raw wool into the felt fabric. Like nuclear waste to make socks. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, kinda. Yeah. Yeah. Just a little bit. Uh, that high of a concentration would definitely. Yes. Yes. I mean, the same thing happened to lighthouse keepers. Actual radium girls making. Yeah. But again, lighthouse keepers. Um, for a long time, because the top of the lighthouse, right, is usually like a mirrored. Historically, it was a mirrored flame. And the best way to help with reflection for the longest time was a literal pool of mercury surrounding that mirrored flame. Um, so your mad lighthouse keeper was a trope for a long time historically, um, because they would have to tend to the light and the mercury. This little mote of mercury, and by little I mean usually around 6 feet, 6 to 10 feet wide in diameter, mote of mercury surrounding their flame and their mirror component. Kiddie pool of it, yes. Dip a finger in it. You can eat the radium. Yeah, the mercury was to float the lens as a bearing. Yes. I wasn't completely sure if I remembered that correctly, so I wasn't going to talk out of my ass, but yes, now that you've confirmed it, yes, thank you. But yeah, so lighthouse keepers were another one that got mad as hatters. Look at me. I'm doing the thing. We're up to 3 tangents. But making the grade. What the fuck did Willy kind of Willy Wonka shit were they on 200 years ago? Well, Gunkin, I think you answered your own question there. They were on the Willy Wonka shit. But making the grade. This dates back to early railroad construction. So when you're building your rail tracks, right? Earth isn't flat and earth isn't smooth. You have to make it that way for the tracks to sit on. Possibly even a conductor when they switch to electric lights. I haven't looked that far into it, Dragon, but that's entirely possible. I would be interested to see what the research on that is, honestly. But making the grade, making the grade. Fish going to talk about grades. So the Earth was a challenge. So Earth is fluth. So you would have, you know, to flatten things out a bit to lay down these wood bearings and the metal tracks. And sometimes, especially if you're maybe building the cross-continental railroads, you would have to go through mountains like, say, Appalachia or the Ozarks or the Rockies. And you would have to make sure that you would make it a steepness the train could actually match, that it could make the gradient of the hill or the grade of the hill. And in traffic, you'll still see this, especially if you ever drive through the deep Appalachians or the Rockies. you'll see signs that say things like steep grades ahead or 15% grade ahead. And it's to warn you to be ready for this steepness. Put a 6 to 10 foot pool mercury in your throat. You want to drive me mad, Gungan? I'm already there. Oh, Earwax, I'm sorry to see about your veggies. That's no good. That's why the vehicle tool is called a grater. Yes, it is, Dragon. You're correct. Liquid mercury is actually not terribly toxic. Mercury vapor in various compounds are, however. Right, like gasoline isn't flammable. Gas vapor is. Well, gasoline isn't very flammable. Gas vapor is extremely flammable. Mind your P's and Q's. Which can be watch what you say and do. Be very particular and very precise in your actions and your words. So, earliest written recording of this dates back to 1763. Charles Churchill wrote a poem that features the line, "And to instruct him how to use his A's and B's, his P's and Q's." So there's evidence for it being used to teach children their alphabets. You can't light diesel with a match. Correct. Related to surveying. They used to keep a box of spiders to make the surveying instruments because you could use spider silk to draw a very thin line on a lens which they needed. I didn't know that, Earwax. That's wild. That's super cool. One of the common folklore things I've always heard about mind your P's and Q's is that a lot of pubs would have, for their regulars, they'd have boards and they'd have tally marks that they could give for however many pints and quarts you would get. And that would basically be your tab. And that's something I'd heard for ages and ages and ages. But common folklore also attributes it to early printing presses. Because with the early printing press, you would have to set up your letters backwards, right? Because you would have to set them into the mold that would then be pressed against the paper where they would show up right side. So you'd have to put them in mirrored. So you would have to make sure that your P's were facing backwards and your Q's were facing backwards. And that can be very difficult when you're setting a type. But also, you know, you have the pints and the quarts and das boots. Who knows? But as far as we know, the earliest usage of it was for alphabets, for teaching the children's. More than you can shake a stick at. I don't know if you've ever heard this one. I heard this one a lot, especially growing up. More blank than you can shake a stick at. More pie than you can shake a stick at. More bacon than you can shake a stick at. More velvet than, I don't know, pick a thing. Pick a thing. A quantity so large it's practically uncountable. So the first known printing of this was in 1818 in the Lancaster Journal of Pennsylvania. We have in Lancaster as many taverns as you can shake a stick at. Question for you, did I get my Q's and P's wrong? A little bit mid-flight, but that is adorable. Liquid mercury is difficult to get into your body. It's such a large atom that it can't be absorbed directly into the skin, which makes it interesting how many people have died from mercury poisoning. This expression is total BS. Your stick shaking art can encompass any number of blanks. Well, what's funny about this one is for the past 100 years at least, Lancaster, Pennsylvania has been a hotbed for the Amish culture. So them having as many taverns as you can shake a stick at is deeply ironic in the modern day. Interestingly, that's also why it's so toxic. It's an atom that chemically interacts with your physiology in many ways, but it's so big that it disrupts those processes by pure virtue of its size. Yes, it's really terrifying if you think about it, just how easy it is to make the big oopsie happen with things like that on a like chemically structural level, on an atomical level, you know? But back to the slide. Fish gonna talk. So the idea of shaking a stick at something is thought by some to date back to, herdsmen with their shepherd staffs and yes. However, shake has also been used to mean a form of basic shingle that's made from splitting wood. The usual method of mercury poisoning is either via vapors, certain chemical combinations that are extremely toxic, or ingestion. Yes, but I have a photo here for you of some shake shingles. So you would take you'd take a log, right? That log is now your shingles. Congratulations, you have broken that one log into all of these shingles, all of these shakes. So you have more blank than you can shake a stick at, more quantity of something than you can break this log into. Not enough room to swing a cat. They made shakes on Townsend's for their 18th century cabin. They did! They did! I love Townsend's. I love Townsend's so much. I need to catch up on Townsend's. I need to catch up on Townsend's and tasting history. Cat swing. So if you don't have enough room to swing a cat, it means a very small, cramped space. You see shake shingles and outdoor showers around here? Very cool. So the cat of nine tails is often believed to be the origin of this one, right? Not enough room to swing that whip. But the term itself didn't really take off until 1695 for referring to that as a cat of nine tails. Organic mercuries are particularly deadly, like how dimethyl mercury killed that lady when she spilled a single drop on her thick safety glove. Yes. Yeah, you don't fuck around with mercury the same way you don't fuck around with, like, anything adjacent to TMA. TMAH. Like, you don't fuck around with that shit. So, cat o' nine tails became a term for this arguably ancient whip, almost 1700. But the phrase "not enough room to swing a cat" had already been in the Oxford English Dictionary's common use category by 1665. So, that's a 30-year question mark, isn't it? Now, it could have been not enough room to swing a cot. Like, if we're going to attribute it to sailor culture, right? Nautical culture. Um, it could have been swing a cot, as in like hanging your cot to sleep for the night, because in most cases, your sailors had a cloth canvas cot that they would hang below decks, and they'd usually, hang pretty cramped spaces, but they'd hang themselves their cots for the night, and that's where they'd sleep. So you might be so cramped that you can't even hang your cot for the night. But in Taming of the Shrew, in 1598, you have the line, "If I do, hang me in a bottle like a cat and shoot at me," which itself references a common practice at the time, which we're not going to go into depth on, but it would be a form of swinging a cat in a bag, which makes it relevant. But it was a reference to this practice, and it was in one of Shakespeare's common man plays. It was in Taming of the Shrew, which was not one of his more highbrow plays, which means that he was using common parlance in the play. So it might have been something he heard ad nauseum on the streets in London. Not my cup of tea. If something's not quite your cup of tea, it means it's something you don't really like. Not your bag, not your jam. You're not here for this, man. So the written record traces this back to late 1800s, when "that's my cup of tea" was a frequently used idiom among British culture. The change to the negative gained popularity in the 1920s. Not a whole lot to say on that one. That's just pretty straightforward. Tea is not your cup of tea. Valid, dragon. Once in a blue moon means very rarely, right? I'm sure you've heard that. So the first known recorded use of this is in 1528 in a pamphlet criticizing the Roman clergy. If they say the moon is blue, we must believe that it is true. The authors, Jeremy Barlow and William Roy, intended this to mean impossibility. Mocking, again, this is what? Not very long, or very, very close in time to Martin Luther's 95 Theses, right? This is a lot of tension in the church. Um, so this is very mocking. But then we get to the 1800s, the Maine Farmer's Almanac, among other publications at the time, like within a 5-year period, used blue moon to refer to the third full moon in a 4-moon season. Pretty cut and dry for cups of tea. Notably, you don't cut nor dry the tea, the dry tea, the drink, but you do dry tea leaves. Yes. So it was only later that blue moon was used to describe an actual occurrence. Funny you mentioned that, Crade, because in 1883, Krakatoa erupted. That SpongeBob Krakatoa wasn't just a goof. It actually erupted. It's one of the most notable volcanic eruptions in recorded history. Like, Krakatoa is honestly up there with Pompeii for the notoriety. But there was so much chaos atmospherically from everything this volcano coughed up into the air, all of the different minerals, all of the different chemicals and gases that got coughed up into the air. It actually caused the moon to appear blue for a period of time. If you look, this is a colorized photo of Krakatoa, if I remember correctly. The explosion was so loud the whole planet heard it. Yeah, there was even an argument that it might have thrown the planet off alignment by like a fraction of a percentage of a degree. Shockwave circled the Earth 12 times. Yep. There was a full year winter, right? Isn't that when Frankenstein was written? I think it's around the same time. I don't remember dates that well, so you'll have to forgive me without having research in front of me. Yeah, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. Um, Speaking of, okay, we're just gonna add the tangent for this now because Fish is going to go off on a quick one by comparison. Um, Speaking of weather phenomena that affect things that we regularly reference in common parlance, um, at the end of Taming of the Shrew, right? Kate goes off on this speech on how you have to respect your husband because he goes out and works all day and you get to stay home, blah, 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 blah. There's historical context that we miss in modern day. Um, and that is that there was a little ice age at the time. The Thames was regularly frozen over enough that people could ice skate on it through Charles Dickens' life. Uh, in Hamlet, one of the first lines spoken out on the castle walls is the wind bites shrewdly and is very cold. And the context of that is not, oh, it's a wee bit nippy. It's, oh my God, we might die tonight. Exposure is too real. I can't handle this. My body may fail. Like, there was a little ice age happening at the time. So in Taming of the Shrew, when Kate goes off on this speech and mentions, taking care of your husband, pampering him when he comes home after working all day, it's literally like, this man braved what was probably a frozen fucking tundra for up to 14 hours so you could stay at home by the hearth and the fire and not have to die, and now you can afford food. Like, yeah, maybe give him a shoulder rub type of shit. Like, it's nowhere near as misogynistic as it actually reads because of the meteorological context of the time. And you miss that just reading the pages. It's fascinating. Yeah, maybe pamper the person who busts their ass for you all day so you don't have to, and risks death from exposure so you don't have to, because they care about you that much. Yeah, go ahead and, like, I guess, pamper them a little bit. Maybe they deserve it. Who'da thunk? Playing devil's advocate. Oh, there was another volcano a bit earlier that did the no summer. The world was locked in a long, cold volcanic winter caused by the eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815. And there was also the time that's referenced in like the 1500s. I can't remember the exact date. If Oxen were here, I know they'd correct me. Um, this referred to as like the year without sun or something. That's super wild. But playing devil's advocate. Frankenstein was also written as a bet. It was a competition between Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, and Lord Byron to write a horror story. And Lord Byron wrote most of Vampire and never finished it. And Mary Shelley, basically, according to the story, much like Robert Louis Stevenson with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, kind of had the entire story happen as a dream and had to frantically write it down. Lord Byron. Yeah, Lord Byron. The man whose daughter hated him so much she stepped so far away from art and literature that she developed the first computer program. But playing devil's advocate, taking an opposing viewpoint even if you don't agree with it, when you're playing devil's advocate for somebody, when you're giving them the argument to their argument, maybe to help them out, maybe to help them flesh out their argument, maybe to help them see sense, you're playing devil's advocate. This was an actual position within the Catholic Church. You would be titled the devil's advocate. This position was established in 1587 by Pope Sixtus V. What a name! So, when you get canonized in the Catholic Church, when you become a saint, there are certain things, there are certain criteria that have to be met. You were born in the wrong time. Legit. So, I'm not going to get the numbers right, so I'm going to hedge my bets here. But there are certain criteria that have to be met in order to be canonized in the Catholic faith as a saint. And one of them is you have to have a certain number of proven miracles. I think it's 3. It might have been reduced to 2, but I'm pretty sure it's 3. You have to have 3 proven miracles. So you'd have somebody here playing the devil's advocate being like, was that a miracle? Or was that just insert scientific explanation, insert logical explanation, insert Occam's razor? This position existed for 396 years within the Catholic Church. We literally have Renaissance and post-Renaissance paintings of devil's advocates at their jobs, as indicated here. Insert what actually happened. Raining cats and dogs, not to be confused with raining men. When somebody says that it's raining cats and dogs, they mean it's a very heavy rain. So the origins of this one is weird. So in 1651, there's a poem that has the line referencing a roof being as secure against dogs and cats rained in a shower. And that phrase was used. You're very welcome, mid-flight. I figured that would be helpful. Combine the 2 raining cat boys and puppy boys. I figured that would be helpful because not all of these are universal. But so, the original or this usage of it implies that the rain is actually cats and dogs. It's so heavy, blah, blah, blah. However, Catarup was an Old English word for a waterfall, or a type of waterfall called a cataract. So could it have actually meant raining waterfalls? Contradictorily, katadoxa is the Greek term for contrary to experience or disbelief. So could it have been raining catadoxa, raining so hard it begged disbelief? Like, um, and then you have arguments for Odin. We also have arguments for medieval witch black cats again. There's arguments for sailors. There is no clear cut definitive origin for raining cats and dogs. There's the common folklore about the thatched roof thing, etc., etc. Everything boils down to, well, the common folklore states over and over and over and over again. Red Letter Day. A particularly pleasantly memorable day. Your wedding day might be a red letter day. Origin of that goes back to ancient Romans, where important dates would be marked on calendars in red. The Fasti Antiates Majores recorded red letter days from 85 to 55 BCE. And illuminated manuscripts later on in the medieval times marked important words and letters or liturgy instructions known as rubrics, which incidentally comes from the Latin rubrica for red ochre, in bright red so they would stand out. So directions for what the preach should focus on or like sermon on, would be written in these illuminated manuscripts. So here is the Fasti Antiates Majores. There's all your important dates marked in red. This practice of red letter days appeared even in modern English, dating back to the Book of Common Prayer. And the Book of Common Prayer is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a book of prayers for the everyman. You have wedding vows in there. You have funerary rites, parts that the non-ecclesiastical class could participate in the Catholic faith, especially because you have Latin as the lingua franca of the Catholic Church up until the Second Council in like the 1970s, 1950s-ish. Because you sermon as a verb, I grew up mega religious style. Yeah, call me out, Slav sermons. I mean, you're not wrong. But I wanted to show you guys what an illuminated manuscript actually looked like here. So this is an honest to God illuminated manuscript. This is one of the gospel stories. And you see the first line is written in red up there. Yes, there's a pumpkin. Well, a gourd at least. You have Mary, Joseph, and Jesus on the left. You have what I assume is Peter with the lyre. But yeah, lingua franca looks inside Latin. Yes. Riding shotgun. I'm sure you've heard or used this one. It means taking the front seat next to the driver. Here, yeah, Airwax. It's rough to read. It is very rough to read, especially on a scanned computer. It's a time. But if you've ever ridden shotgun, you've ridden next to the driver. This one is actually also pretty literal. This one dates back to 1800 stagecoaches. Your stagecoaches, right, are traveling these rough roads, usually not very populated. You might have towns or fortresses or forts rather, not fortresses, but you'd have towns or military forts or maybe friendly Native American encampments, that you might be able to stop at. But for the most part, it was just wild road. out past, I'd say, well, at this point, definitely past the Mississippi, but probably even before that, probably past the Appalachians, more or less. So you'd have mail traveling by stagecoach, you'd have inheritance traveling by stagecoach. If you ordered, say, furniture for your new home, it would arrive by stagecoach, or you might arrive by stagecoach. And you would have somebody sitting next to the driver with a shotgun to protect you from bandits, to protect you from thieves, to protect you from wilderness. There might be a bear that decides you look like a snack, but you got a shotgun, you got a chance, right? Filters you from reading so many cool ancient things on Gutenberg that you've bookmarked from ages ago, that and having to sit and focus at your PC. That's fair. So, when we got the Hollywood Western, and especially the spaghetti Western, we saw the revival of the idea of riding shotgun in the in the common parlance. It's a stagecoach because the horses are staged. Yes, yes it is. That is exactly the correct thing. Rub the wrong way. Somebody says they've been rubbed the wrong way, they've been annoyed or irritated or offended. We're gonna have a recess soon, Gungan. There's gonna be an ad break in about 5 minutes. Well, the actual origin of this term, likely related to animals and fabrics, like you can't pet your cat backwards without it being grumpy, right? Um, Common theories about the actual origin of this as a phrase relate to colonial America, where floors would have to be polished along the grain or rubbed the right way, because a lot of those floors, like, they didn't have the same type of waxing and sealing techniques we have now for wood floors, right? You'd have to regularly repolish, re-wax your floors because the wax would wear off as your shoes walked over it, as people danced in your ballroom, what have you. You would have to re-polish, re-rub your floors. The floors in a cat. You know it. You know it. That's the only logical response here. The London Examiner is the earliest I could find of a printing of this phrase, and that was in 1811. But I also think of aminals. Saved by the Bell, not the TV show. But to be saved by the bell means being saved from something unpleasant by some sort of weird last minute intervention, whether it's the class bell or somebody coming into the room at the right time or your phone going off or, what have you. Just that serendipitous moment where you don't have to have the unpleasant ick happen, right? This one is also kind of literal because it goes back to 1800s boxing when you may be having your spit knocked out of you quite literally, but you can't get knocked out, man. You can't get knocked out, man. You can't get knocked out, man. There's the bell. Oh god, you can sit for 10 seconds. Saved by the bell. Don't forget the mustache. The mustache is a critical component of 18th century boxing. Without that, who even are you? It's integral. Shake a leg. Shake a leg means get going, hurry up, let's go, come on, man. So, earliest printing, well, earliest printing in regard here was the Dubuque Democratic Herald in 1863, was the line, nearly every man in town able to shake a leg has purchased a ticket in regards to a local ball. So meaning a man who can dance. So we're breaking legs and shaking legs. Yep. Make a leg. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we have any more legs in here mid-flight. uh, in the early 1900s, it was used in all sorts of publications, magazines, newspapers. Like, you can find this as far back as, like, I'd say 1905, 1903, in just like local newspapers, major new or magazine publications, what have you, just wherever, as meaning hurry up. finding that transition point was honestly kind of impossible for me. Bake a leg. Yeah, let's do that. Take a leg. Sleep tight. You know, sleep well. Good night, sleep tight. So there's speculation that this used to refer to like rope beds. Um, tight also used to mean like secure or like safely kept about 200 years ago. Um, First known writing was in Susan Bradford Epps' diary in 1866, well after the transition away from rope beds for most people to wooden slat beds, which is a lot closer to what we have now. This is what a rope bed looked like. So you would set your mattress on top of that, and keep in mind your mattress was usually like functionally a big bag stuffed with whatever you could stuff it with that was as soft as you could get it, whether it was fabrics or fleece or hay. That was your mattress, right? No, Dragon, you brought up the bed bugs. Your mind went right to hay. It originally used to just be bugs or buggers, but the first known use of "Don't let the bed bugs bite" was probably the 1897 book What They Say in New England, a book of signs, saying, and superstitions. It was often used as a playful or affectionate send-off at the end of the day. So I thought that was pretty cool. We're going to hold off on the next one until everybody gets back from ads, because ads are about to start here in a second. It's such a cute phrase. In reality, bedbugs are horrible, evil things. They are. Bedbugs are the worst things. I hate them. I hate bedbugs as much as I hate ticks. They are the worst. I hate them. They should go all into the fire. I think the world would be a better place without bed bugs and without ticks. And you know what? Bed bugs have over ticks on the fuck you scale, because bed bugs do something special that not even ticks do. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that nightmare function is that bed bugs accomplish, and a few other creatures honestly, but bed bugs in this case? I'll tell you. I'll tell you. It's two words. It's the worst two words you can hear together: traumatic insemination. That's right. That's how bed bugs repopulate. Traumatic insemination. They also shit on your bed. They do. It's awful. Um, but when bed bugs mate, the male pierces the carapace of the female and impregnates her. And that's that's not the only creature that does that. But it's enough to make me hate bed bugs so much. You had a scare after moving about bed bugs? Oh no. You don't care. You just need them all dead. Took 3 years to get rid of them. Yeah, I can't. I can't. Bed bugs are probably up there with ants for me as like worst things to exist. Bed bugs, ticks, ants. What's funny is I actually love insects. You're an expert now, at least legit. Legit. Glad to hear that. A neighbor you were hanging out with sometime told you she had bed bugs after inviting you to sit on her sofa bed twice. Ah! That's like having a sleepover with a friend and then getting the call the next day that, hey, we just want to tell you we woke up this morning and Cindy's covered in chicken pox. I am so sorry. I am so sorry to anybody who's had to deal with bed bugs. Aunt Pope and his bed bishop bugs. I think you're onto something there, Oxen. Or lice, yeah. No, I used to have hair down to my knees, and I got lice from school with hair down to my knees. That that was the worst 2 weeks waiting out all of those eggs and everything and doing the daily, like multiple times a day thing. That was the worst experience of my young life. You want to hear why I hate ants so much? I did a whole PowerPoint on it, Earwax. But next one, now that everybody's back, is spilling the beans. You just chopped your sister's hair off when she got lice. Well, I was in a fundy cult snake, so, hair was kind of a thing. But to spill the beans means to reveal a secret, often unintentionally. Um, and this dates back to ancient Greece, when you'd have different colored beans, and you'd vote by dropping a bean into the right jar, and if you spilled the jar, you'd expose the vote. Oh, have a good night, oxen. I'm just kidding. That's not where this comes from. The earliest written record of this in English is in a 1919 novel. While the ancient Greek quote unquote voting system might have been an inspiration, because that's been a present part of ancient Greek folklore to fact lineage for forever. Um, this phrase has commonalities in other languages. The closest I found was spill the soup in Spanish. And trust me, I looked. I looked a lot. Best I found was spill the soup. But there's a lot of phrases that mirror a similar vibe without being the originating phrase. La sopa, yes. Spring chicken. Somebody refers to somebody as a spring chicken, they mean they're young, right? This one dates back to 18th century farming. The chickens that were born in the spring were thought to be more tender meat than those that had to rough it through winter. It was thought that, having to live through the harsher conditions made for tougher meat. Ta-da! So chickens, born and bred in the spring, uh, usually sold for more. Ever heard something takes the cake? Old people not as edible. Well, I mean, you could have them at the same age, but a chicken that got to live through a cozy, warm spring and summer, the argument was that that chicken probably thrived a lot more than the chicken that hit 6 months going through winter, and therefore was probably plumper, more tender, probably spent more time relaxing in the sun and less time stiffly huddled up against its siblings or den mates or whatever. So, yeah. But also, I'm sure some of them were, older chickens. That's always in the mix. But the next one, take the cake. I wonder who knows about this one before we get into it, because this one's a ride. I think you might have understood it backwards, but it's okay. I hope I made it clear. I wish it were the king cake, eerie wax. So to take the cake means you're the most of the most. The top performer takes the cake. Blah 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 blah. Unfortunately, this term dates back to the antebellum South and has significantly racist origins. Cakewalks and minstrel shows are where this come from. Sure, don't know the history of this one off the top of your head. Yeah, no, this one's a rough one, but this is so commonly used, it's insane. So, cakewalks were an incredibly racist practice where black people were made to perform the most ostentatious, impressive walk down what was basically like a catwalk, and the winner got a cake. So the winner, the best one, took the cake. which is also where the phrase cakewalk comes from. And you hear those all the time. And yeah. Yeah. No, those are yeah. Yeah. So just not all of these are pleasant. We already had kick the bucket. Your mind goes right to the first level of Road Rash 64. Oh, bro. Turn a blind eye, meaning pretending not to notice something. Yeah, I grew up with those in my lexicon, and sometimes they still slip out, and I always feel icky when they do because I don't mean for them to, but they're kind of pre-built into the fish brain from a very young age. And it's just it's rough. It's hard to break that. Every etymology you have no idea for turns out it's extreme racism. Yeah. It's either extreme racism or something completely innocuous. It's one of the two. It's never in between. But to turn a blind eye means to pretend not to notice something. And while you have similarly phrased terms going back to like the late 1600s, this idiom is directly tied to the Napoleonic Wars.
The expression turn a blind eye actually came from a guy who had a blind eye. His name was Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson, and even though he lost his eye like really early on in his career, he remained a part of the Royal Navy, even until 1801, which was the Battle of Copenhagen, and that's where the idiom comes from. So the story goes, the head admiral of the Brits was overly cautious, and he was worried they were going to lose the war. So he called on all the other British ships to retreat. And you know, back in the day, they would call for each other with those naval flags they'd wave at each other. But Admiral Nelson thought they were winning the battle. So what was he to do? I mean, he couldn't directly disobey orders. Well, that's why he put up his telescope to his blind eye intentionally. That way he had an excuse. He could say, hey, I didn't actually see the orders, and so he could keep on fighting. And you know what? It worked. The British won the battle, Admiral Nelson was promoted, and his boss.
So there you go. Yes, Fish was delegating that one. He did have that dog in him. But that guy had it more concisely than I ever could. I wanted to give you guys the best information possible. Two shakes of a lamb's tail. You've ever heard that? If somebody's ever said that to you and you haven't understood, they just mean it's very quick. It's very quick. So the origin for this one is honestly kind of self-explanatory because lamb tails, when they go, they look like they're attempting flight. You've heard I don't give two dogs of a dead dog. Eerie wax. That is incredible. And I think unrelated. I'm like 98% sure that's unrelated to this one. So, the first known printing of Two Shakes of a Lamb's Tail was in the Ingoldsby Legends in 1840 by Richard Barham. And lamb tail for visual effect because lambs. Because them little tails. Look at them little tails. Just little tails. Just little guys. Little guys with little tails. Look at the little guys. Under the weather. Feeling unwell, physically or mentally. The origin for this is actually seasickness. If a sailor was feeling seasick, he would go below decks to get away from the weather and the heaviest tilt of the ship, or get under the weather. Because the higher up you are on a ship, the greater the degree of tilt. So the closer you get to like the center and lowest levels of a ship, the least amount of tilt you experience. The first known recorded use of this in writing was in 1835 in an edition of the Jefferson Daily Evening News. But I pulled up an actual motion sickness guide for you guys, because this will help explain it a little bit. Here's where to book your cabin if you're prone to motion sickness. Go for the midship, because that has the least movement. It's kind of the balance point of the ship. The lower decks get the least sway and tilt. Don't stay in the very front or the very back. Basically what I was just saying, right? You could be under the weather, so the weather couldn't affect you. Because you were already, by modern standards, under the weather. The whole 9 yards! This one means everything possible or available. I was always raised thinking this was World War II related, but it's actually not. The first usage actually dates back to 1855 as the punchline to a comic story about mismeasurements and miscommunication. The full 9 yards was known to be printed in a May 1907 edition of the Indiana's Mitchell Commercial newspaper. Ever seen that movie? Then all the parents in the room gasped in horror when Amanda Pete's boobs appeared on screen. But no, I was always raised with the ammo belt folklore from World War I, World War II era, where it was the 27-foot long, the 9 yard ammo belt. And if you gave them everything you got, you gave them the whole 9 yards, which is arguably where it got reformatted into modern lexicon, but it's not the origin, which the rebirth of some of these I find equally as fascinating as the origins. Wrong side of the bed. You wake up in a bad mood, you start the day, woke up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. This one also dates back to Roman superstition. Uh, I mean, everybody's got their superstitions, right? But one of the ancient Roman superstitions invited the belief that if you put your left foot down on the floor first, or you exited on the left side of the bed, you were setting yourself up for bad luck. Left was an inherently unlucky side. So you'd have your bed set up that you would be forced to step down with your right foot from the right side. This one had a history from the Roman Empire, being that a slave or someone hired would be paid to carry a luggage for X amount of distance with the extra mile the whole. Interesting, mid-flight. I had never found anything on that one. That's fascinating. So we're entering the home stretch here. This actually didn't take 4 hours. This took closer to three. I'm surprised. Um, but I have a couple things here for you that I wanted to show you, because some of these words that we still see used now and again could also be history for the extra mile instead. Oh, that might make sense. So I have a couple treats for you here at the end. The first one is some fossil words. It is where we get sinister from. That's true, dragon. Yes. Um, so a fossil word is a word or term that's become obsolete on its own, but something you've probably heard in phrases, right? So we have ado, not auto, ado, which is fuss or trouble, like much ado about nothing. Interestingly, um, nothing could also have been itself an idiom for female genitalia, in terms of the name of the play. So it could be a whole lot of hullabaloo about cootie. Uh, then you have desserts. No, it's spelled like deserts, but it's desserts. And it means excellence or worth if somebody's getting their just desserts. Jetsam. If you ever watched Disney's Little Mermaid, you've heard of flotsam and jetsam. Flotsam is what floats on the top of the sea after a shipwreck, whereas jetsam is what's cast overboard from a ship. Kith. If you've heard kith and kin, friends, acquaintances, or your homeland are your kith, and your kin are your family. Neap, a weak tide. Petard, hoisted by your own petard, a small explosive. A shrift, short shrift, a confession. Turpitude, depravity, if you've heard of moral turpitude. Isn't it Ryu again? Yes. Now, Kith. Now, since we're in the home stretch here, I have a couple treat slides like that last one. This one is idioms that are commonly attributed to Shakespeare. Use Vim in your roguelike. Excellent. I have here a huge list, well, a sizable list, I should say, of idioms that are attributed to Shakespeare, whether he coined them, originated them, popularized them. They're attributed to Shakespeare. This and the next slide took me almost 2 weeks by themselves, and I will be happy to explain after the slideshow why, if you don't know the story already. 2/3 of English words are from French, the rest are from Shakespeare. Point out recently that Shigeru Miyamoto is as influential to the medium of video games as Shakespeare is to drama. Yes, I think you're honestly right there, Crane. I like it sounds silly just on its face, but I honestly think you're right. But we're gonna go over some of the idioms Shakespeare gave us. At one fell swoop, all's well that ends well, dead as a doornail, the apparel oft proclaims the man, or what is it, the outfit maketh the man, however it gets transliterated. Break the ice and foregone conclusion are both Shakespearean. Good riddance, eaten me out of house and home, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Kill it with kindness. Let slip the dogs of war, all that glitters isn't gold. The course of true love never did run smooth. To thine own self be true, neither a borrower nor a lender be. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, which has become heavy as the head that wears the crown in modern parlance. Jealousy is the green-eyed monster is Othello. So this next slide, I did a non-exhaustive amount of research because I do not have the amount of time that it would require to dedicate to go through Shakespeare line by line to pull all of these out. But I set myself up a method that was very scientifically based on how to randomly source my best resources for this out of a list. And I spent about 2 weeks going through that, and I have built you guys a chart because it turns out that nobody has done even a sample testing of idioms by Shakespeare play until today. Ta-da! Somewhere I have a spreadsheet that is Shakespeare plays, like by title, and then sonnets, and like it is almost 100 columns long. And this was a random sampling. Being the lead by a kid thinking. Well, what's great about Hamlet, right, is you have a lot in Hamlet that people know, like every dog has his day. Um, and then you've got things like Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, that everybody knows and misquotes. Um, but so many of them from Hamlet come from the long-winded character Polonius just barfing out idioms to his children. It's incredible. It's really remarkable how much of Hamlet is just Polonius yapping. I say this as a yapper. Like but I have the chart somewhere. We might pull that up at some point. The spreadsheet I made, because some of them are fascinating. But the vast majority come from Hamlet, Macbeth, The Tempest, and Julius Caesar. And it's remarkable what some of those are and how long lasting they are. Now we have some biblical idioms to go over. Uh You heard somebody say the writing's on the wall as sort of this like, oh, it's an ominous portent. It's very clearly coming our way. There's no getting away from it. Didn't know most of these titles until that slide came. I went to a Shakespeare college. Not for Shakespeare, but I went to a Shakespeare college, so Shakespeare was kind of implicitly required. But biblical idioms. Uh you have the writing on the wall, this like irreversible, inescapable event is coming. Dry your brain with video games, learning is frying you. You can, Gungan. We only actually have like 3 slides left. We're very close to the end. But if you need to go, then it's totally okay. The VOD will be up for however long Twitch allows me. Um, but in the book of Daniel, the hand of God literally carves writing into the wall. How the mighty have fallen comes from King David's lament of Saul in 2 Samuel. Because Saul's story is a story of fallen pride. Cast the first stone is attributed to Jesus in the Gospel of John, protecting a woman who was going to be stoned to death. The let you without sin, or what is it? Let he among you without sin be the first to cast the stone, something like that. Pearls before swine comes from the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew, the same place the Beatitudes come from. Good Samaritan is not on the list, but it is from the Bible, yes. Put this on YouTube? I would have to download it, but I probably can. I probably can make this happen. Remind me, Gungan, because I probably won't remember tonight, but remind me in the fish cord and I will do it, okay? Okay. But the Buddy Christ will send you off. Have a good time. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. See, I had most of the words there. I just had the puzzle pieces aligned wrong. That particular story is in several of the Gospels. It is, but that phrase is taken from that specific one. Does Good Samaritan count as an idiom? People use it like, yes, it does. It does. We also have some Greek idioms, like Greek-based, both language and culture. It will vary what your version of the Bible is. That's true. Holy Spirit, the Son apparently defines. John adds the odd detail of Jesus writing in the dirt while the people are standing there awkwardly. Well, John, we've got the whole Gospel X to get into when it comes to like Luke and John and all that. That's a whole thing. So if somebody's ever described anything to you as a Herculean task, Heracles, later Hercules through Romanization, was a Greek demigod. He was the son of a son of Zeus, who had to perform 12 impossible tasks to atone for the bad he did. If somebody's ever referred to something as a Pandora's box, like a hot mess, a type of thing, Pandora's box was a trap gift Pandora was given that contained all the evils of the world. She is, for all intents and purposes, the Greek parallel to Eve in the Garden of Eden. If you've ever heard "Leave no stone unturned," that dates back to Mardonius, who was one of Xerxes' proxies. He allegedly had left buried treasure during the Great War, and Apollo had advised a Theban to leave no stone unturned when hunting for it. There is also the argument that it wasn't lapis in the Greek, but could have been Petra, which could have also meant leave nothing undone. You have Cloud Cuckoo Land, or Gondakuku Land, which was originally I'm gonna fuck this up, forgive me, Nephalocogia in The Birds by Aristophanes in 414 BC, which was an avian-built city in the sky. A fanciful avian-built city in the sky. So somebody's off on their fancy. They've gone to La La Land, which is the more common one nowadays, but it comes from Cuckoo Land. Somebody's referred to their Achilles heel, their one weakness. Achilles, in Greek folklore, was dipped into the river Styx by his mother, which would have made him impenetrable, impervious, and vulnerable. But she held him by his heel. And so that became the one part of him that was mortal. Somebody's ever referred to themselves or something as laconic. Laconia was the Greek region where Sparta was located. And then our final one is the Civil War edition. I know we've had a few of these come through that have been Civil War based, but these didn't have enough to deserve their own slides. Starting off strong with hookers. So there was, if you don't know your Civil War history, the Union Army went through 7 generals, and most of them were jokes. One of them, number 3 or 4, I believe, was General Hooker. And he basically had a carnival follow his troops. There was alcohol, there was food, there were functionally bards and women of the night to keep up morale, and it kind of became one big party, and it wasn't very successful. But the ladies became known as hookers girls, eventually shortened to hooker. If you heard it through the grapevine, this got very much popularized during the Civil War. Early telegraph wires were compared to grapevines with how overtangled they were with each other and how bulky they would become. Sideburns are relating to another Union general, this one General Burnside, who had the epitome of all sideburns. If you've ever heard somebody referred to as a sawbones, or if you've played Cyberpunk 2077, battlefield surgery often involved, well, what we were talking about earlier with the bite the bullet. Very gruesome, very rudimentary amputations, and usually involved a saw and bones. And then if somebody was a blue belly, it was a derogatory term for the Union soldiers because their uniforms had that blue placard in the front. But speaking of Burnside, check out them sideburns on Burnside. That man is making up for everything lacking on the top of his head. Yes, Dragon, a bone saw. Exactly. They prolific use of bone saw. But just bask in them sideburns on General Burnside. That is a legacy. That is a legacy to be proud of. And that is our PowerPoint. Moment. Well, there you go, guys. There you go. I have given you all the learning on a selection of idioms. I hope that was fun. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was everything I made it out to be. Let me find my spreadsheet for you, because I want to show you, or at least tell you if I can, some of these really wild Shakespearean idioms that we don't necessarily realize are Shakespeare. You already knew all of that? Well, legit. Good job. That was fun. You should definitely preserve this, like Gungan said. I will do my best. Thank you for putting this together. We should have the discipline to hunker down on topics. Well, I'm glad I can do it for us. That makes me happy. But yeah, so I wanted to pull up some of these idioms that, like, you may not realize came from certain plays, right? Like, let's see. Dish fit for the gods is a line from Julius Caesar. Let's see. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women in it merrily players is from As You Like It. Love is blind, pound of flesh, and bated breath all come from Merchant of Venice. Hamlet is full of a million of them. Brevity is the soul of wit, frailty thy name is woman. Method in the madness, own flesh and blood. To be or not to be, of course. It smells to heaven in mind's eye. Wear your rue with a difference is one I've heard. Lady doth protest too much. right? Like, you've heard all of these here and there. Let's see, where's another good one here? Neither rhyme nor reason comes from comedy of errors. Where was another good one? Men of few words comes from Henry V. Melted into thin air comes from The Tempest, along with Brave New World and Past as prologue. What the Dickens does not come from Charles Dickens, but comes from The Merry Wives of Windsor, along with Laughingstock. Come what may, knock knock who's there, something wicked this way comes, all from Macbeth. Hey Darth Mex, welcome in. What a piece of work is a man is another Hamlet one, incidentally from my favorite bit of Hamlet. Wild Goose Chase comes from Romeo and Juliet. Laughingstock is what you used to make happy soup. My Kingdom for a Horse and Snail Paste are both from Richard III, along with Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious. I'm sorry. I should stop. I should stop myself. I'm not helping anybody. But yeah. So like, I at some point may go fully through Shakespeare and just put that table together for fish shiggles. Who knows? This may happen. I may actually be the person to build that chart. I told Wubba, my mod Wubba, I was doing this. And Wubba's response was, Jesus Christ, fish, just go for the PhD already. So, you know, there's that. How did I choose what idioms to look into? Well, I asked the person who requested the PowerPoint theme if they had any, and then I asked around a little bit. I did kind of a random sampling. I kind of like rolled a die and figured out who to ask based on that, and I pulled together a list of my own from just like things I heard every day and things I remembered hearing and things just popped into my head out of nowhere, or I might have read in a news article or a book or something. I've actually been working on this one since like shortly after my birthday. This PowerPoint has taken almost 2 months. Doing all of the research and like comparing and cross-referencing and everything. I had reference materials that were reference materials in the late 1800s that I was using for modern reference materials. That should give you some idea of the level of nerd what happens here in Fishville. But no, thank you everybody who hung out today. Oh, I need to adjust that still. Alright, Dragon, what you picking? On Guard? I don't think I know On Guard. We do have to do game stream soon. Will be very soon. Needs to happen. But yeah. I've added it to the list. It is there. It is official now. It is part of the canon. Ta-da! But yeah. Thank you everybody who hung out today. I super appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed that. Like, genuinely, I hope that is what you wanted it to be, and I hope I didn't build it up too much. But yeah, I will be back on Sunday Yes, Sunday. I like how Friday is becoming part of our stream time now, just unofficially. I'm gonna share our raid message in chat. You guys take that, do with it. Thank you, Dragon. I will hydrate. I've been doing a pretty good job of hydrating through stream. Felt bad about the Chicago thing, not giving time to explain the quote being. Oh no, you're fine, Earwax. You're fine. I posted a thing that was full of learning, so it only makes sense. The only other thing I could think we could do right now would be try to maybe try Halodori again, see if we could stream that. But that didn't work for me last night, but I still want to play it. But it didn't work for me last night. But I still want to play. I guess we should dip out. How about we go bother Sisahime? How about we go bother Sisahime? That sounds like a good time to me. That sounds like a good time. Let's go bother Sisahime. It's been a while. Let's go do that. Okay, so I'm going to get us ready to go. So I'll see you guys Sunday. You have a good day or night or whatever o'clock it is for you, and I'll see you soon, okay? Okay. And you take care and have plenty of self-care and stuff, and take care of yourself. And thank you, Dragon. And Notsukoi.